Chapter 1692. King of Darkness's gaze was filled with an indescribable lust. This king has been sealed for 10,000 years and has never touched a woman. It just so happens that you are going to die by this king's hands. Why don't you let this king teach you the greatest joy of being a woman before you die? He abruptly tightened the grip on his arm. Yiqing Luo's body had no way to struggle free. Her entire body fell onto King of Darkness's body. The next moment, King of Darkness's hand slid onto Yiqing Luo's body. He actually started to tug on Yiqing Luo's belt. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale as she flipped her palm and swiftly stopped King of Darkness's actions. Following that, she quickly released her profound qi. Twin dragons emerged from the sea. Yiqing Luo cried out as she gripped her glower flame fan tightly and released the profound skill of the glower flame fan. Two flying fire dragons soared into the sky. Tyrannical profound qi undulated as the two flying fire dragons circled around. King of Darkness's heart was filled with lust. He had never expected that Yiqing Luo still had the ability to resist at this moment. Instantly, she was engulfed by the two fire dragons. Yiqing Luo's body, with the help of the flying fire dragons, swiftly escaped from King of Darkness's embrace. She took a few steps back. Her fingers swiftly fastened the belt on her body. Her pair of clear and charming eyes were already tainted with a thin layer of coldness. At the same time, King of Darkness reacted at the instance when he was engulfed by the fire dragons. But he waved his sleeves lightly. The vast profound yin qi dissipated the two fire dragons which were entangled in the sky. King of Darkness's gaze followed Yiqing Luo's direction. There was no longer any lust in his eyes. Instead, it was a cold and sinister sneer. "Looks like this king has found your weakness." He laughed softly as his evil face was filled with a chilly intent. He licked his dry lips, and the possessive desire in his eyes made him look even more treacherous. "This king happens to fall for this trick of yours." "Really?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her icy cold eyes curved upwards. She tightened her grip on the glowing flame fan and scoffed, "Unfortunately, I find you disgusting." The King of Darkness's eyes darkened, and her exquisite face was covered by a layer of black yin qi. He sneered as his entire body abruptly charged downwards, and a burst of strong qi once again neared Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo shifted her feet. A devilish mystic light spread out from his fingertip. She would never make the same mistake again. She would never give the King of Darkness the chance to do so. A flowing red light flashed in his eyes. The profound energy released from her entire body gradually rose. In just a moment, a transparent protective shield had formed around her body. Just as the terrifying glint which carried the profound yin qi neared Yiqing Luo. Boom! Yiqing Luo's defensive shield exploded with a loud bang. Coincidentally, the King of Darkness's figure was right next to Yiqing Luo. His face was blasted by the explosion of the protective shield. At the same time, Yiqing Luo had already executed her footwork and swiftly moved out of the explosion radius. Yiqing Luo's profound energy was not able to cause much harm to the King of Darkness. Even if the King of Darkness was blasted away, at most, it would only cause some superficial injuries to the King of Darkness. For example, now, after the thousands of strands of demonic red light dissipated, the King of Darkness's elegant black hair had been blown into curls. His black robe had several holes in it. Chapter 1693. King of Darkness was also stunned by the explosion. He stood there in a daze as he lowered his head to look at his burnt clothes. The expression on the man's face kept changing. After some time, King of Darkness's hands trembled as he touched his curly black hair. His eyes were filled with a storm. "Damned vessel! You actually dare to scheme against me!" A hoarse growl came out from King of Darkness's mouth. The current him didn't have any feelings for Yiqing Luo at all. He only wanted to kill Yiqing Luo. Kill Yiqing Luo, Hearing King of Darkness's raging voice, Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief, being stared at by those disgusting things that were neither human nor ghost. She only felt disgusted. Even though he only used that gaze to look at her, she felt extremely disgusted. Not to mention the fact that she was being groped by him, wanting to grope her body. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew that King of Darkness's current body wasn't his original body, she definitely wanted to poison him. To poison this disgusting species who coveted her beauty. To make him unable to have sex. Blowing him into curly hair was already considered as her mercy. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a cold glint as she snorted. Do you think I am someone you can touch? I'm telling you, if you dare to touch me once, I will blow you up once. Why don't you try and see if you can kill me first, or if I can blow up all the hair on your body into big curly hairs? Good. Good job. King of Darkness's furious eyes swept past Yiqing Luo. A profound Yin-Chi whirlpool instantly shot out from his body. That whirlpool swiftly twisted and turned, as though it was going to swallow the heaven and earth. That horrifying Chi condensed into a whirlpool. It showed the fury in King of Darkness's heart. Yiqing Luo's expression congealed. That power was simply too strong. It was so strong that she felt a chill down her spine. In the end, it was because her ability wasn't strong enough. She thought that she had advanced to the sky profound stage. She had enough ability to protect those brothers whom she cared about. But in the end, she still let her own brothers take the risk. In front of the stronger King of Darkness, she felt fear. If she was strong enough, he wouldn't be in such a passive position. Yiqing Luo's eyes overflowed with a complicated glint. Her slender fingers curled up one by one. Her entire body was tense, and her expression was solemn as she stared at the King of Darkness. In his mind, he constantly analyzed the current situation of the battle, and in his mind, he had already constructed many ways to escape unscathed. I say, lass, using your beauty to stall for time just now was the best way to do it, and it wouldn't draw blood. Why didn't you grasp the opportunity? Old man Tsang sighed helplessly when he saw her tense and worried expression. Yiqing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. I can't accept any man other than Ah Xian touching me with that kind of feelings. No one but Ah Xian. Honey trap. She did have the capital to do so. Moreover, he had trained this skill for a long time in the hands of the old men of the Yi clan. But she had never bothered to use a honey trap. There was no need to use a honey trap. But now, she already had Ah Xian. It was even more impossible for her to seduce a man other than Ah Xian. She would rather use a battle with the King of Darkness, to stall for time. She didn't want the King of Darkness to touch her body. Old man Tsang remained silent. He didn't speak again. Chapter 1694. Vessel, since you insist on choosing a painful path to death, then I will definitely satisfy you. King of Darkness laughed sinisterly. Just as he finished his words, the whirlpool around him started to spin rapidly. Yiqing Luo felt her chest tightening. Her body was pushed into midair by something. Following that, her body flew backward. He smashed into the wall beside him. She gave a dull moan as her body fell onto the ground. Blood flowed out from the corner of her lips. Her brows were tightly knitted as she panted in pain. She felt as if her 5 viscera and 6 bowels had been shattered. What kind of horrifying power was that? Yiqing Luo was still lying on the ground. She couldn't understand what King of Darkness had done, to actually send her flying in such a short period of time. She thought that with the group of old men in her past life, learning various Yi family's footwork, her speed in the Nirvana realm was absolutely heaven-defying. But she couldn't see through King of Darkness's speed at all. How strong was he exactly? Looking at Yiqing Luo lying on the ground. Her green and white uniform was stained with fresh blood. She didn't know if this fresh blood was from the expanding blood pool or Yiqing Luo's blood. King of Darkness's malicious eyes were extremely cold and sinister. He looked at Yiqing Luo coldly as his lips curled up in ridicule. That's it? This king hasn't warmed up enough, don't you die now. He took a step forward and walked to Yiqing Luo's side as he looked down at her from above. Seeing that she had no resistance at all, gritting her teeth silently, King of Darkness laughed delightfully. Don't die too early before this king has enjoyed himself to his heart's content. Saying that, he flipped his sleeves again. A burst of dense, profound energy continued to increase in strength. Yiqing Luo only felt her body being squeezed by a burst of energy as she was forcefully pushed down onto the ground. She heard a kacha sound. The ground beneath him had already been shattered by this powerful force. Yiqing Luo could clearly hear the sound of her bones breaking. He was really ruthless. What a terrifying force. Yiqing Luo endured the intense pain. She didn't make a single sound. Her pair of charming eyes exuded an extremely piercingly cold chill. That's right. It's this gaze. It's this gaze that makes this king feel your despair and hatred. The King of Darkness sneered. His eyes, which were filled with hostility, were filled with a joyful smile. 2 consecutive attacks. Yiqing Luo didn't even have the chance to react. His body had already suffered serious internal injuries. The King of Darkness didn't want to play her to death. His attacks were extremely heavy, aiming for the vitals without any mercy. However, he managed to avoid taking her vital parts. Did he want to see her lying on the ground in despair, unable to move, waiting for death? Did he want her to taste the taste of despair? Every time Yiqing Luo breathed, she felt an extreme pain coming from within her body. She held back and slowed her breathing. Girl, you have no way of contending against his strength, but your speed is definitely above his. Old Man Tsang's voice suddenly entered her mind. Speed? She couldn't even move now. How could they compete with him in speed? Furthermore, she couldn't see through the King of Darkness' attack trajectory. Apparently, the King of Darkness's speed was above hers. Old Man Tsang hesitated for a moment before spitting out 2 words, blink. Blink? Yiqing Luo clutched her wound as she pursed her pink lips. Blink could indeed surpass the King of Darkness's speed. But she didn't want to expose the Azure Dew bracelet. Chapter 1695. Lass, I believe in your ability. Old Man Tsang could feel the worry in Yiqing Luo's heart as he laughed lightly. His tone was filled with trust. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Old Man Tsang's relaxed and trusting tone. It made her heart ache even more. She knew that Old Man Tsang was pretending to be relaxed in order for her to give it her all. Her slender fingers curled up tightly. Her fingertips had turned white from being clenched so tightly. Her enchanting eyes were fixated on the King of Darkness. Vessel, how does it feel to wait for death in despair? King of Darkness's lips curled slightly as his eyes turned cold, like a wild beast eyeing its prey. He licked his lips greedily, as though he was toying with his prey in the palm of his hand, which made him extremely satisfied. Yiqing Luo's breathing calmed down, quietly staring at his figure. Tightly, she shut her eyes. She didn't reply, didn't reveal any fearful expression. There wasn't any hatred in her eyes. This caused the perverted feeling in the King of Darkness's heart to dissipate. His eyes turned cold as he congealed his profound yin qi once again as he attacked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly. Suddenly, her fingertips moved. The glower flame fan shot out a few strong air currents. In a split second, her eyes were filled with a demonic red glow. It went straight into King of Darkness's eyes. At the same time, Yiqing Luo silently recited the blink movement secret method. Her figure swayed. In a blink of an eye, she had already moved to the open palace door. She held onto the palace door to maintain her balance. Before King of Darkness could react, she swiftly stretched out her hand and hit a few acupoints on her body. Following that, she took out some pills from the profound phoenix ring and swallowed them. In just a few breaths, Yiqing Luo had no way to do any simple treatment on herself. King of Darkness had already sensed the change in her aura. "You!" King of Darkness turned his head and followed the aura towards the palace door. His evil cold eyes stared at Yiqing Luo in astonishment, as though he couldn't believe it. Yiqing Luo actually had the ability to avoid his attack? After swallowing the pills, Yiqing Luo's pain was suppressed and her stamina gradually recovered. She held onto the palace gate and slowly straightened her body. "That's not bad. Struggling before death makes me excited." King of Darkness couldn't be bothered to find out how Yiqing Luo managed to escape from his attack. In his eyes, no matter how Yiqing Luo tried to escape, they would all die in his hands. He sneered and his figure flickered. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she sensed the fluctuation in the air, the feeling of flowing over. She furrowed her brows and reacted quickly. Using her footwork, she immediately headed out of the palace. "You think that I can't leave the dark sanctuary?" The King of Darkness laughed sinisterly when he saw Yiqing Luo's actions. Yiqing Luo was shocked. Just as he stepped out of the palace gate, the King of Darkness appeared in front of her. His feet happened to be standing right outside the palace gate. That straight and slender figure, that black robe full of holes, fluttering in the wind. Yiqing Luo's footsteps halted as she swiftly retreated. She thought that even though the King of Darkness had revealed his true body in a fit of rage, the King of Darkness still had a way to deal with him. But in the end, he was still sealed by the saint-level seal. By right, his true body should not be able to leave the dark sanctuary. But right now, the King of Darkness was still able to stand at the entrance of the dark sanctuary's palace. He could leave the dark sanctuary's palace, and even if she dashed out of the palace gate, she was unable to break through that reverse enchantment. Looking at the astonishment in Yiqing Luo's eyes, King of Darkness gave a low laugh. Stretching out his hand, he suddenly clasped Yiqing Luo's neck. Chapter 1696. The tightness on her neck made Yiqing Luo's face flushed red. King of Darkness squinted his eyes as he gave a sinister mocking laugh. "Little lass, you are indeed a talent. No wonder you can disrupt my plans time and time again." No wonder she was the vessel of the divine phoenix profound jade. At such a young age, her willpower was so strong. She was even able to evade several strikes under his relentless attacks. Such innate talent. If she couldn't be used by him, he had to destroy her before she grew up. Otherwise, she would be a hidden danger in the future. Yiqing Luo's face turned pale. Her sharp fingers dug deep into the flesh of the King of Darkness. Her eyes were still cold and her aura was fully unleashed. She didn't look like she was being controlled by someone. Her voice was hoarse as she spoke with difficulty. "Not only will I destroy your plans, I can also destroy you." King of Darkness's dark and deep eyes flashed. Following that, he burst out into a cold laugh. "Then let me see what other abilities you have." In King of Darkness's eyes, Yiqing Luo was a piece of meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. His eyes turned cold as he suddenly stretched out his other hand and dug towards Yiqing Luo's heart. "Before I devour you, this piece of divine phoenix profound jade must not be wasted." His sinister voice was filled with coldness and ridicule. Just as his hand was about to reach Yiqing Luo's chest, all of a sudden, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky. The ball of light landed on the arm of the King of Darkness. King of Darkness screamed miserably. The hand which was on Yiqing Luo's neck was numbed by the lightning as it relaxed. Yiqing Luo's body fell limply onto the ground. She recited the incantation and her figure flashed. She immediately teleported away from King of Darkness's attack range. The lightning ball revolved around the arm of the King of Darkness, emitting sparks of electricity. The stinging pain from the electric shock and the numbness all over his body made his astonished expression look extremely comical. "Thunderclap incantation. You know the thunderclap incantation." King of Darkness's voice was filled with disbelief. He looked at Yiqing Luo, who was standing 10 meters away, and his eyes were filled with madness. "There's still teleportation. How could anyone in the Nirvana realm use the secret arts of the immortal realm? He forcefully endured the electric current in his arm, his eyes filled with a thick malevolence. Who are you? Who the hell are you? The King of Darkness asked in a frenzy. A pair of eyes flushed red. Yiqing Luo's sharp senses detected a trace of extreme fear in his frenzied questioning. That's right, it was fear. The King of Darkness was afraid of the thunderclap art and teleportation. Just now he said, "Is this a secret technique of the divine world? Divine realm? The divine realm of the highest plane in the upper realm?" The King of Darkness was not the only one in disbelief. She was also stunned. Good. How did the reward of the Purgatory Pagoda become the reward of the divine world? No wonder. Old Man Tsang had always warned her not to casually use it. No, it's impossible for you to be her. Suddenly, the crazed King of Darkness started to laugh coldly. That crazy look on his face. He looked like a madman. He lowered his head and looked at his arm, which was still flowing with electricity. Suddenly, he clenched his fists tightly. A burst of profound yin qi instantly dispersed the layer of electricity. You are indeed not her. If it's her, her thunderclap art can shatter this king's physical body. Ha ha! Seeing the electricity dispersed, King of Darkness's eyes revealed an ecstatic expression. Chapter 1697. Hearing King of Darkness's words, Yiqing Luo's heart slowly calmed down. Luckily, King of Darkness's attention was only focused on the secret manual. He didn't think about the Azure Dew bracelet. But who was the she that King of Darkness was referring to? The thunder crash arts which King of Darkness was afraid of was executed by that she. That person, a single thunder crash arts could shatter King of Darkness's physical body? How powerful was that person? But it was because of the existence of that she. Now, she could unleash her blink movement and thunder crash arts. Think that you can go against me just by relying on the thunder crash arts? King of Darkness saw Yiqing Luo's burning battle intent and snorted in disdain. When he first saw Yiqing Luo executing the thunder crash arts, his heart had indeed felt terrified. One must know that 10,000 years ago, the person who sealed him in the dark sacred region used this thunder crash arts to shatter his physical body. But this vessel was not able to unleash a tenth of the thunder crash arts power. To him, it was not a threat at all. On account of the thunder crash arts, I will not let you die so easily. King of Darkness squinted his eyes as he charged forward with a dense profound yin qi. His voice paused as his smile turned sinister and demonic. I want to extract your soul. Devouring your soul, I will be able to inherit everything you know, including thunder crash arts. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with excitement. Apparently, he was extremely interested in the thunder crash arts which shattered his physical body 10,000 years ago. Yiqing Luo looked at him coldly as she sneered, "Then you have to have the chance to chase up to me first." The moment her words ended, Yiqing Luo's body suddenly moved. This time, coupled with the speed of the blink movement secret technique, King of Darkness was totally unable to see through Yiqing Luo's movements. On the contrary, when the blink movement was raised to the maximum, Yiqing Luo was able to see all of King of Darkness's attacks. When King of Darkness's attack was about to hit her, Yiqing Luo speedily executed her blink movement. Then, a thunderclap incantation appeared on his fingertip. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A thunderbolt that was even more violent than the lightning ball just now struck down from the sky. Coincidentally, it landed on the King of Darkness. That head of black hair which was originally plotted by Yiqing Luo and exploded into curly hair. This time, it was struck by the lightning even more messy and chaotic. You! The King of Darkness glared at her and cursed in her heart. She turned around and unleashed an even more ferocious attack. However, this time round, the King of Darkness wanted to use his ability to suppress Yiqing Luo and use his speed to restrain her. But he was no match for Yi-Ching Luo's teleportation. They exchanged a few moves in a row. The King of Darkness' patience was running out. The attacks were gradually unable to hit Yi-Ching Luo as they gradually sped up, gradually becoming more ferocious. But he still wasn't able to touch the corner of Yi-Ching Luo's clothes. This caused the King of Darkness's mental state to explode. The anger in his heart was also growing. The King of Darkness was enraged. Yi-Ching Luo wasn't as relaxed as she looked on the surface. Using teleportation and the thunderclap incantation didn't mean that he didn't need to rely on any power. All these required the support of profound qi. Using two secret techniques at the same time required a large amount of profound qi. She could restrain the King of Darkness within a short period of time and not hurt herself. But her time was limited. Once the supply of profound qi was insufficient, she would probably deplete her profound qi and give the King of Darkness a chance. She only hoped that. Chapter 1698. Yi-Ching Luo continued to use the combination of the Glower Flame Fan and the Thunder Crash Manual to attack the King of Darkness. Teleportation became more and more agile under her control. The King of Darkness had no way of tracking her. In just a short while, the situation between the two of them gradually reversed. More and more wounds appeared on the King of Darkness' body. He didn't know if it was because he was angry or because the time limit was almost up. The King of Darkness's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Yi-Ching Luo with hatred. His gloomy gaze swept up the storm. The mysterious yin qi spread around his body, forming a huge vortex. In an instant, all the power suddenly burst out. Yi-Ching Luo's expression congealed. That terrifying and powerful energy made Yi-Ching Luo feel pressured. Her strength was far inferior to the King of Darkness. If the King of Darkness insisted on fighting her head-on, she had no chance of winning. She would never allow the King of Darkness to get close to her. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes flashed. He quickly widened the distance between them. The King of Darkness stood rooted to the ground. The mysterious yin qi circled around his body and turned into a huge vortex. The vortex towered high, engulfing heaven and earth as if it wanted to break through the darkness domain. That powerful force was unstoppable. Yi-Ching Luo was shocked. She narrowed her eyes and unleashed her profound energy. Red light surged out from her body and slashed towards the King of Darkness. However, after her attack came into contact with the swirling vortex, it was as if she was about to explode. He was instantly devoured by the vortex and vanished. There wasn't even a flickering streak of light. Yi-Ching Luo's expression changed. He could feel that the dark force around the King of Darkness was still increasing. The vortex that was formed by the dense mysterious yin qi was also expanding continuously. Yi-Ching Luo's heart surged with an ominous premonition. What was the King of Darkness trying to do? What does he want to do? Oh no, little girl, he wants to forcefully absorb your soul. Old Man Tsang, who was hidden within the Azure Dew bracelet, sensed this powerful energy and immediately reacted, urgently calling out a warning. Yi-Ching Luo was shocked. He could still move forward and absorb her soul? Was there a need to be so heaven-defying? He shouldn't know the soul assimilating array, right? The soul assimilating array takes too long. How can he set it up by himself? Old Man Tsang snorted. The dark spells that the pharaohs know were all taught by the King of Darkness. What do you think? Yi-Ching Luo remained silent. As it turned out, the King of Darkness was the ancestor of all dark curses. The soul assimilating array is an array that will only be used when absorbing a large number of souls. Old Man Tsang continued to explain, what he wants to absorb is your soul alone. A soul assimilating spell is enough. Soul absorbing spell? Yi-Ching Luo knitted her brows tightly. How do we stop it? When the King of Darkness was casting the curse, her attacks weren't able to affect him at all. Disrupt his spiritual power. Old Man Tsang replied. Mental strength? That's right. Dark curses required mental power to cast. All he had to do was disrupt the King of Darkness' mental power. Naturally, this curse could not be continued. Yiqing Luo's eyes lit up. He took out a white jade bottle from the profound phoenix ring. That bottle gave off the exact same smell as the one she used to dupe Pharaoh He. She threw the bottle into the air and waved her glower flame fan. A hurricane swept up the bottle and sent it flying towards the direction of the King of Darkness. Dong! A loud crisp sound was heard. That bottle had yet to get close to the King of Darkness. Chapter 1699. The white medicinal powder started to fall. Yiqing Luo retreated to avoid it. The black profound yin qi wrapped the medicinal powder into a ball. Following that, a strong wind started to blow. The white powder covered the sky and earth as it flew towards her. F***K. Seeing this situation, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but curse. What the hell, couldn't they have a good fight? While conjuring the soul-absorbing spell, she could still use the profound yin qi to counterattack. The moment one came into contact with this white medicinal powder, one's mental energy would be suppressed. Even she would not be an exception. Yiqing Luo immediately displayed her footwork as she opened up the glower flame fan in her hands and created a whirlwind. She threw the medicinal powder towards the direction of the profound yin qi. At the same time, her figure flickered. She teleported to the side of the King of Darkness. King of Darkness's malicious eyes flashed. A sinister chill shot out from the bottom of his eyes. A burst of profound yin qi blocked Yiqing Luo's path. Yiqing Luo didn't bother with the profound yin qi. She moved agilely towards the King of Darkness. Her fingertips held onto another white jade medicinal bottle as she bit open the cap and poured it onto the King of Darkness. But, just as the white jade medicinal bottle was about to fall, suddenly, she saw the King of Darkness raise his head. A treacherous sneer appeared on that exquisite and bewitching face. His eyes, which were filled with profound yin qi, were filled with murderous intent. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled. She realized something. She smashed the medicinal bottle onto the King of Darkness's body. Following that, she silently chanted to teleport away. But it was too late. The corners of the King of Darkness's lips curled upwards as a sinister smile surfaced on his face. This was the moment he was waiting for Yiqing Luo to fall into his trap. The King of Darkness's hand gesture changed. Yiqing Luo only felt that her body had suddenly lost the ability to move. Following that, a tearing sensation spread from her heart to every corner of her body. She couldn't even teleport away. Enduring the pain that almost made her faint, she furrowed her brows and used her willpower to quickly move her body away. But her body seemed to be nailed to the ground. He stood perfectly straight on the spot, unable to move at all. Small vessel, no one in this world is able to escape from the soul-absorbing curse. The King of Darkness, who had his face covered in powder, laughed sinisterly as he looked at Yiqing Luo. He raised his sleeve and used the burnt sleeve of his robe to wipe the powder off his face. It didn't matter if the powder fell on his body. Yiqing Luo's soul was captured by the soul-absorbing curse. Even if he wasn't able to utilize his mental energy, he could easily swallow Yiqing Luo's soul. He laughed sinisterly, his eyes filled with a lustful and cold light. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows tightly as she gritted her teeth and tried to move her body. She could clearly feel that the soul in her body was gradually being torn apart from this body. The sharp pain of being torn apart. It penetrated her soul as if it wanted to shatter it. The soul-absorbing spell could absorb a human soul, forcefully separating the soul from the body. Yiqing Luo knew that once her soul left her body, the King of Darkness would definitely dig out her profound heart jade and devour her soul. Once the soul was devoured, her soul would scatter, and she would disappear from this world for all eternity. Moreover, the secret of the Azure Dew bracelet would be exposed. No way. She couldn't let her soul be absorbed. Still struggling, The King of Darkness looked at Yiqing Luo's determined gaze as his eyes were filled with ridicule. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Yiqing Luo's collar. Chapter 1700. Yiqing Luo's hair stood on end as a chill ran down her spine. That gaze made her feel extremely disgusted. But she had no chance to escape. She could only watch as the Empire of Darkness approached her. His face, which was filled with murderous intent and an evil smile, was pressed against her cheek. His slender fingers curled up slightly. Slowly, he covered her chest. Yiqing Luo's petite body suddenly stiffened. A wave of humiliation welled up in his heart. She was furious, and her eyes were burning. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. Yiqing Luo's face instantly turned pale. His sharp fingers scratched the skin on her chest. A bone-chilling chill came from his fingertip. Gradually, he delved into her body. Yiqing Luo understood. The King of Darkness did not want to humiliate her body. Instead, he wanted to dig out her profound heart jade. His fingers penetrated her chest bit by bit. The feeling of her soul being torn apart, the feeling of his fingers penetrating her skin. It was so painful that Yiqing Luo's eyes turned red and her face turned pale. The King of Darkness was clearly doing this on purpose. He intentionally used this slow action to torment Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo knew what he was planning and naturally wouldn't make any noise to satisfy King of Darkness's perverted pleasure. Looking at Yiqing Luo, she was in so much pain that her forehead was filled with cold sweat. His entire body was drenched in sweat. The smile in the King of Darkness' eyes became even more unbridled. Even 10,000 years ago, I had never met a woman as stubborn as you. If you didn't harm my interests, perhaps, I might really fall for you. Yiqing Luo's stubbornness and her willpower. The King of Darkness had indeed been attracted. He admired Yiqing Luo's perseverance. It was a pity. She was a woman with such great talent and admirable perseverance. If I don't strangle her in the cradle, in the future, it would become an obstacle to his rule over the four realms. He would never allow any obstacles to appear by his side. Bah! Yiqing Luo spat out a mouthful of saliva as her eyes were filled with ridicule and disdain. She took a deep breath with difficulty and said with difficulty, "I feel disgusted." Every word seemed to be squeezed out from the gaps between his teeth. After saying that, she closed her eyes in pain. It was just 6 simple words, but they seemed to have exhausted all their strength. The excruciating pain he was enduring was also reaching his limit. His soul was still restlessly tearing apart. It was as if it wanted to break out of her body. The more she tried to suppress the breakthrough of her soul, the more she tried to do so. The more he thought about it, the more he felt like his body was about to explode. Yiqing Luo's pained expression had successfully pleased the King of Darkness. He laughed excitedly and increased the strength of his fingers. Yiqing Luo couldn't hold it in any longer as she cried out miserably. The King of Darkness' hand had already pierced through her chest. The ice-cold finger extended towards the location of her heart, towards the profound jade heart that was being nurtured. Yiqing Luo's delicate body trembled in pain. The pain of her soul and body intertwining with each other caused her eyes to turn red. A wave of unwillingness and resentment surged from the bottom of her heart. Boom! Just as the King of Darkness was about to touch the profound heart jade, suddenly from Yiqing Luo's body, a glaring red glow exploded. That red light was like a burning flame. The heat was so high that it seemed like it could melt everything in the world. The King of Darkness' hand was instantly retracted by the heat. Immediately following that, he quickly shifted his body and retreated out of the boundary of the red light. The moment he retreated, Yiqing Luo's body suddenly floated into mid-air. That glaring red glow encircled her entire body. Chapter 1701. Hot. The scorching burning sensation was burning her heart. Yiqing Luo only felt that she was being burned in a raging inferno. The intense heat caused her to moan uncontrollably. Her breathing was getting heavier and heavier. You You lowly human from the lower realm, you can actually release the divine phoenix profound jade's energy? King of Darkness's shocked voice rang beside her ear. King of Darkness's eyes were filled with disbelief. He stared at the young lady who was wrapped in a strange flame. His gaze was fixated on her heart, which had a hole dug out. That bewitching fiery light came from her heart, which was also the profound jade heart. This was the divine phoenix profound jade heart's energy. Even if it was just 1/10,000th of its energy, that was enough to shake the heavens and earth in Nirvana realm. But Yi Qing Luo was obviously a vessel which contained the divine phoenix profound jade heart. Why was she able to release the divine phoenix profound jade heart's energy? She could even make use of the divine phoenix profound jade heart to save her life. Nirvana realm actually had such an unfathomable profound cultivator. This vessel must die. And at this moment, Yi Qing Luo totally didn't know how horrifying her current look was in the eyes of others. This familiar scorching feeling, she knew, that the divine phoenix profound jade heart had helped her again. Previously under King of Darkness's attack, it was the divine phoenix profound jade heart who had helped her to block that attack. And this time, the divine phoenix profound jade heart reacted again. A scorching burning sensation spread through her limbs and bones, spreading through every meridian in her body. Everywhere it went, Yi Qing Luo seemed to feel the piercing pain from the scorching inferno. Lass, be careful. Just as Yi Qing Luo was immersed in the scorching inferno burning her meridians, Old Man Tsong's reminder rang in her mind. Yi Qing Luo suddenly opened her eyes. He saw the King of Darkness charging over with a ferocious look on his face. The profound yin qi which gathered around him was so dense that it almost enveloped his entire body. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as her fingertips raised up reflexively. The glower flame fan had already drawn out numerous silver threads, entangling towards King of Darkness in all directions. She could move. Yi Qing Luo's heart leapt with joy. He spread his arms wide and slowly descended to the ground from midair. Before Zhang Xian could stabilize himself, the feeling of his soul being torn apart assaulted him once more. Her face paled and her breathing quickened. Unless the person who cast the curse dispels the curse for you, otherwise, before your soul is extracted, this curse will always exist. Old Man Tsong was deeply worried. He could feel the pain that Yi Qing Luo was experiencing at this time. Yi Qing Luo's body swayed slightly as she half knelt on the ground. His soul was constantly being pulled in his body, trying to break out. Ha ha! Little container, even if you have this heaven-defying profound jade heart, it's still useless in your hands. The King of Darkness totally disregarded Yi Qing Luo's attack. He raised his hand and directly split apart the silver wires which Yi Qing Luo shot over. The next moment, he faced her once again, directly bypassing the hurricane created by Yi Qing Luo's devouring flame fan, pouncing towards Yi Qing Luo. His 5 fingers turned into a claw as a cold glint surfaced in his eyes, as he dug towards Yi Qing Luo's chest once again. The terrifying energy charged against Yi Qing Luo's soul. That hand touched her chest once again. The divine phoenix profound jade heart released a scorching heat, burning King of Darkness's hand. That heat made King of Darkness's brows crease tightly. But he didn't avoid it again. Chapter 1702. Yi Qing Luo was in so much pain that her face turned pale. Her soul was constantly being torn apart, making her unable to concentrate and counterattack the King of Darkness. But the King of Darkness had no intention of giving up under the scorching heat. She could not let the King of Darkness dig away her profound jade heart. Losing her profound jade heart, she had no more willpower to lock her soul. Yi Qing Luo's eyes suddenly turned cold. Suddenly, she turned her hand and grabbed the hand that was probing into her heart. That hand, under the high temperature, was already burnt. Easily, Yi Qing Luo's fingers locked onto his wrist, preventing him from continuing to probe further. The hole in her chest kept on oozing out blood. Yi Qing Luo's energy, under the double intense pain, slowly disappeared. She was able to grab the King of Darkness's hand now. It was entirely based on her willpower. "Do you think you can stop me?" The King of Darkness's sinister eyes were filled with an extreme cold storm. Following his voice, the King of Darkness's arm suddenly exerted strength, forcefully piercing towards Yiqing Luo's heart. His hand, under the scorching heat, emitted a smell of barbecued meat. But his strength was still much stronger than Yiqing Luo, who was struggling with her soul. Yiqing Luo's bit of strength was totally unable to stop him. Yiqing Luo felt a sharp pain in her heart. His fingertip had already touched the edge of the profound jade heart. The divine phoenix profound jade heart once again released an even more scorching heat. Yiqing Luo could see a stream of energy, like water, gushing out from her profound jade heart. Ripples appeared one after another in that power. The King of Darkness's hand paused slightly. It was this pause which allowed Yiqing Luo to find a chance to break through. Her hand, which was locked onto the King of Darkness's wrist, suddenly increased the strength. The sharp fingertip deeply embedded into his flesh. Blood started to spread out from the fingertip. She took a deep breath, grabbed the King of Darkness's hand tightly, and flung it with force. Following that, her body staggered as she retreated a few steps. Her delicate body leaned against the cold wall. She panted heavily, cold sweat seeped out from her forehead, sliding down the contours of her face. The King of Darkness stumbled a little after being flung by her. He lowered his head and looked at his palm that had been burnt into a ball of meat. A trace of hostility appeared in his eyes. This woman! How stubborn! Even now, they were still struggling on their deathbed. Did she really think that she could continue to be so lucky? The King of Darkness moved his dead finger, and his expression turned even colder. When he looked up again, a storm was brewing in his eyes. Just as the King of Darkness was about to form a series of hand seals to increase the intensity of the soul-assimilating curse, suddenly, he saw Yiqing Luo raising that peerless face. Sweat soaked her black hair hanging down her cheeks. His deathly pale face made people feel pity for him. However, that pair of sharp and charming eyes were filled with endless killing intent and ruthlessness. She leaned against the wall with a stunning smile on her face. He suddenly reached out and placed his hand on his chest. She was in so much pain that she sucked in a breath of cold air. Clenching her teeth, she suddenly dug out that profound heart jade. Her fingers gripped the profound heart jade tightly. The dazzling purple glow of the profound heart jade pierced through her eyes. The King of Darkness's face turned pale. You want. Even if I die, this is my thing, I will absolutely not give it to you. Forcefully enduring the pain, a hoarse voice came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth, word by word. Her eyes were filled with a maniacal chill, and even if I die, I will bring you down to hell with me. Chapter 1703. The profound jade heart had the ability to self-destruct. The higher the grade, the greater the range and power of the profound jade heart's self-destruction. The divine phoenix profound jade heart's self-destruction was enough to destroy the entire dark forces. Her soul was about to be absorbed and her heart was bleeding non-stop. Yiqing Luo wasn't sure if she could continue to hold on. She didn't want to give up. But there was no way out. Rather than letting the King of Darkness take away her profound jade heart and swallow her soul, she might as well destroy everything. Destroy herself, destroy the King of Darkness, destroy the dark forces. It was better to be a broken jade than an intact tile. If he wanted to snatch away her things, he would have to use his life to exchange. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with killing intent. Her 5 fingers slowly tightened. An enchanting smile blossomed on her lips. Following that, she slowly closed her eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't see that after she closed her eyes, the King of Darkness had already rushed in front of her, his face filled with fear as he tried to stop her. The King of Darkness's hand was just about to touch the hand that was holding onto the profound jade heart. All of a sudden, the profound heart jade shot out an extremely intense red light. The light was completely different from the scorching heat from before. The King of Darkness's hand, under that red glow, was abruptly repelled. His pair of hands were like rotten meat, giving out a sizzling barbecue sound. The King of Darkness's face turned green. His dilated pupils were filled with terror. The current him, where was the slightest bit of his earlier coldness and complacency? The divine phoenix profound jade heart had left the vessel's body, but it could still protect the vessel. Could it be? The divine phoenix profound jade heart had completely chosen this vessel, to become its own master? This lass, what charm did she have, what ability did she have, to be able to attract the divine phoenix profound jade heart, to automatically protect her time and time again? The King of Darkness stared in horror at the profound jade heart which was emitting a demonic red glow. His heart was extremely shocked. Following that, a scene which made the King of Darkness's expression change, happened. He saw the young lady who was holding the divine phoenix profound jade heart in one hand, was enveloped by that demonic red glow. A powerful and terrifying airwave, along with a thick profound qi, encircled Yi Qing Luo's body, forming a huge whirlpool. Shortly after, that profound heart jade that was emitting a demonic red glow slowly returned to the depths of Yi Qing Luo's heart. Under the powerful whirlpool, in the incomparably dazzling red light, the young girl's body slowly floated in the air. She opened her arms wide, and her blood-stained uniform was dyed scarlet. Her fine black hair fluttered lightly on her shoulders, making her look like a fairy from the 9 heavens descending upon the world, making one feel reverence for her. The King of Darkness took a step back. He stared blankly at the girl in midair. His heart suddenly trembled. What was going on? The vessel's aura suddenly changed. What kind of feeling was that? Strange, ruthless, dangerous. A complicated feeling filled the King of Darkness' senses. Apart from the woman who sealed him 10,000 years ago, this was the second person to strike fear into his heart. No, this is not the vessel. It was impossible for a person's aura to change so quickly. The young lady in front of him didn't have the slightest hint of a human's aura. That's right. There was no human aura. That strange red light was emitted from her body. Circles after circles of red airflow coiled around her. The King of Darkness also noticed. On the young lady's wrist, a string of cherry blossom pattern appeared. That pattern flashed an extremely demonic red. Chapter 1704. You dare to hurt me? A hoarse voice came out from Yi Qing Luo's lips. Word by word, it was like the beating of a drum, falling heavily into King of Darkness's ears. As she spoke, she opened her eyes. A scarlet red light shot out from the bottom of his eyes. Like a sharp blade, it shot towards the King of Darkness's face. King of Darkness's pupils constricted as he swiftly dodged to the side. You are not that vessel. King of Darkness frowned as he stared at the young lady in front of him. The young lady's eyes were dyed red, bewitching and treacherous. She was expressionless, but her lips curled into a teasing arc. Of course I am not the vessel. I am the owner of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. As she spoke, Yi Qing Luo's petite figure suddenly swayed. The next moment, she appeared in front of King of Darkness. The young lady's fragrance assaulted his nostrils. King of Darkness no longer had the heart to waver as he hurriedly retreated. But Yi Qing Luo lifted her leg and kicked heavily on King of Darkness's abdomen. King of Darkness cried out in pain as his body flew out. King of Darkness didn't even have a chance to react. She was not Yi Qing Luo. Absolutely not Yi Qing Luo. How could Yi Qing Luo possess such powerful strength? Although this strength was not comparable to him at his peak. But she could at least exchange 3 blows with him at his peak. Don't belittle it, just 3 blows. One must know that he was the King of Darkness, the king who ruled over all living things. When he was at his peak, even in the God realm, he could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. But the current him, was not at his peak. He had no way to see through Yiqing Luo's actions. What on earth was going on? However, Yiqing Luo didn't give him any chance to think. She was expressionless and her eyes were scarlet red, like an Azura who only knew how to hunt. She only had one goal: to kill the King of Darkness. King of Darkness's body crashed heavily onto the altar. Before he could even get up, his chest suddenly felt stuffy. A foot stomped heavily on his chest. His body fell backwards once again. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Yiqing Luo looked down at the King of Darkness, whose face was filled with astonishment as she laughed. Her smile was enchanting and enchanting. Don't you like digging out people's hearts? Why don't I dig yours and let you have some fun? There was a hint of cruel mockery in his clear voice. The minute her words landed, Yiqing Luo had already bent over. Her fair hands entered the King of Darkness' body without any hesitation. His hand pierced through the King of Darkness's chest. Blood splattered and instantly Yiqing Luo's hand was stained with fresh blood. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she raised her hand, which was stained with blood, her crimson red and flirtatious eyes fixed on her own hand. Your blood is also cold. With her actions, the King of Darkness had no way of escaping. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, King of Darkness's body stiffened. Following that, he heard Yiqing Luo continuing, indeed it's just 1/10,000th of his mental power. Even if it pierced through the heart, it wouldn't disappear. The King of Darkness was stunned. She actually knew that he wasn't his real body? Indeed. This physical body was merely a strand of his mental power. Under his rage, it had condensed into a physical body. But before the King of Darkness could regain his senses, Yiqing Luo touched her lower jaw as a flirtatious smile appeared on her face. Her tone was as light as a breeze. But blood will flow and the senses will hurt. If you can't die, then I can torture you properly. Her voice was like an evil spirit demanding for his life. The King of Darkness's body was extremely tense. Chapter 1705. The pain in King of Darkness's chest and the feeling of losing blood made his exquisite and cold face turn even paler. It was indeed as Yiqing Luo had said. This wasn't his original body. Even if he lost all his blood, he wouldn't die. But his original body was damaged. His senses would hurt. He had always been high up and was used to looking down on everyone. Except for that incident 10,000 years ago. No one could make him suffer such humiliation. This young lady actually made him suffer such humiliation. How could he tolerate it? How could his pride tolerate it? King of Darkness's eyes shot out an intense battle intent. In his heart, he had the urge to kill Yiqing Luo. He regretted that he had given up the chance to kill her because he wanted to torture her. If he knew that this vessel would gain the recognition of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, he would definitely dig away her Profound Heart Jade at the first instance. Recalling the scene earlier when Yiqing Luo dug out her Profound Heart Jade and wanted to self-explode, dragging him down to hell with her. The shock in King of Darkness's heart had yet to dissipate. This kind of person absolutely couldn't be left alive. This would definitely be his biggest trouble in the future. Looking at King of Darkness's indiscernible expression, his expression could even open a dye shop. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards happily as she revealed a coquettish smile. Don't be anxious, I have always been a vengeful person and I repay it very generously. Whatever you did to me earlier, I will return it to you 100-folds. As she said that, the foot which was on his stomach started to press downwards. Suddenly, her gaze swept past the position 3 inches below the King of Darkness's navel. The smile on the corners of her lips swayed and swayed, turning into an evil smile. Noticing Yiqing Luo's expression, King of Darkness's face instantly turned black. This crazy woman actually wanted to turn him into a eunuch? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her body was enveloped in a dazzling red glow, blurring her beautiful face. She let out a low laugh, as though she was ridiculing King of Darkness's inability to resist. as though she was ridiculing King of Darkness's red and green face. King of Darkness was infuriated by this gaze and smile. The hollow feeling in his chest made his expression extremely unsightly. He was the King of Darkness, but he was being tormented by a young girl. If this news were to spread, how would he, the King of Darkness, still have the face to rule the four worlds? His eyes suddenly turned cold and sinister. Under Yi Qing Luo's double attack, he made the most direct counterattack. He ignored the wound on his chest. He stretched out his arms and pinched the foot that was stepping on his abdomen. Yi Qing Luo immediately reacted and lifted her leg to struggle. But the King of Darkness was boiling with rage, and he couldn't care less about Yi Qing Luo's resistance. Both his hands grabbed Yi Qing Luo's leg tightly and exerted force. There was a click sound. The sound of bones breaking resounded in the sky. At the same time, the King of Darkness reached his hand into the gaping wound on his chest. He was actually pulling out pieces of bone from the wound. The sound of bones creaking was especially eerie in this silent and strange atmosphere. Yi Qing Luo's figure spun in midair, and by the time she landed on the ground, that leg which had its bones broken could no longer land on the ground. Waves of piercing pain stimulated her senses. Her bloodshot eyes seemed to be covered with blood. She stared unblinkingly at the man in front of her who was grabbing her bloody bone. A thick, profound yin qi revolved around his arm. Round after round, it merged into the bone. He opened his palm. Chapter 1706. King of Darkness gripped the bone sword in his hand tightly. The profound yin qi was still flowing. He laughed coldly as he no longer had the intention to tangle with Yi Qing Luo. He raised his sword and charged towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Little vessel, you've successfully infuriated me. To be able to see the dark divine relic, you should die in peace. His words fell, and he had already charged in front of Yi Qing Luo. The bone sword in his hand flashed a biting cold sword glow. Yi Qing Luo's blood-red pupils surfaced a cold smile. Although one of her legs was fractured, but that didn't mean that she would be controlled by the King of Darkness. Dark divine relic? So what? Those who dared to hurt her and dig away her profound heart jade had to die. Looking at the incoming black long sword, Yi Qing Luo raised her glower flame fan fearlessly as her fingertips hooked out 2 strands of silver silk and coiled towards the black long sword. Each strand of silver silk turned into a sharp blade that could cut through metal like mud. After coiling around the long sword, Yi Qing Luo immediately retreated backwards. The long silver silk pulled out a long line between the two of them. The black long sword was overflowing with sword qi as the profound yin qi expanded wantonly. Under the silver silk's coiling, it gave off a buzzing sound. The taut silver silk also started to tremble. A tyrannical profound yin qi followed the black long sword's silver silk and started to spread. Momentarily, the 2 taut silver silk were covered with a thick black qi. It flew speedily towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her slender fingers flicked. Those 2 strands of silver silk instantly retracted. The moment it separated from the black long sword, the profound yin qi suddenly dispersed. But, the moment her silver silk retracted, a sinister smile flashed past King of Darkness's eyes. He raised the black long sword in his hand as his imposing manner was like a rainbow as he waved it out. The chilly sword qi carried the profound heart qi, like a poisonous snake's tongue, sweeping everything in front of it. What kind of power was this? She had no way to detect it. That sword qi was too ostentatious and too majestic. Yi Qing Luo's figure stretched out as she floated in midair. That huge wound on her chest started to emit balls of dazzling red light. Yi Qing Luo's pair of eyes gazed at the surroundings as the red glow turned even more devilish and treacherous. A powerful, profound energy erupted from her body. It intertwined with the sword glow which was surrounded by mysterious yin energy. His blood-stained robe fluttered in the strong wind. Her fine black hair danced wildly on her shoulders. The huge wound on his chest was surging with a majestic and vast power. She would not allow the King of Darkness to retaliate. She wanted to dominate this battle. Looking at the oncoming sword radiance, Yiqing Luo suddenly shut her eyes. At this moment, the palm of his hand was constantly transforming into a mirage. Under her movements, the glowing flame fan danced quickly. Immediately following that, Yiqing Luo's movements paused. The devouring flame fan unfolded between her hands, following Yiqing Luo's palm wind. The gourd flame fan immediately turned into a spinning top and flew towards the sword light. When the glowing flame fan and the sword light collided, the air around them vibrated with waves of qi that rippled out in all directions. The two forces were equally matched. King of Darkness's heart trembled as his eyes were filled with disbelief. His dark bone sword actually wasn't able to break through this vessel's defense? How could this be possible? This container actually withstood his attack? No way. He couldn't waste any more time with the vessel. There was too much blood seeping out from his chest. He forcefully pulled out the bone sword. This body couldn't hold on for much longer. He had to end this battle quickly. Chapter 1707. Go and die. King of Darkness's cruel voice rang out. He faced the two waves of profound qi as he brandished the dark bone sword and stabbed towards Yiqing Luo. The collision of profound qi caused King of Darkness's robe to be shredded into pieces. Traces of blood seeped out from the densely packed scars on his body. He still didn't care. Bearing with the backlash from the collision of profound qi, the long sword was already charging towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo had not expected King of Darkness to use such a ruthless method. There was no way for her to retreat. That black long sword had already pierced towards her head in the next instance. Just at this critical moment, suddenly, a hurricane with raging flames knocked the long sword's trajectory away. The long sword pierced through thin air. King of Darkness didn't even have time to react. He only felt as if his waist had been hit hard by something. Instantly, his body flew backwards like an arrow that had left the bow. In midair, blood splattered everywhere. Following a miserable shriek, King of Darkness fell onto the ground. The bone sword in his hand also fell onto the ground, giving off a crisp sound of impact. What was this? What was it that stopped his attack just now? King of Darkness forcefully supported his injured body as he flipped himself up and stared angrily in front of him. This stare made him take a step back in shock as he sucked in a mouthful of cold air. In front of him was the young lady who should have died under his bone sword. At this moment, she was like a bloodthirsty azura as she floated in mid-air. Her blood-red eyes were filled with a biting cold and eerie aura. Her entire body was emitting a raging airflow. A huge whirlpool revolved around her feet. It was emitting a thick, vicious, bloodthirsty, and austere aura. On her right was a noble and elegant vermilion bird with resplendent phoenix feathers as it stood proudly. On her left was a majestic white tiger whose fur was burnt but it still couldn't conceal its king of beasts' might. Vermilion bird, white tiger, two sacred beasts. Earlier, that raging hurricane which deflected his long sword was the vermilion bird's attack. The force which sent him flying earlier was the white tiger. No. Something was wrong. King of Darkness stared at the vermilion bird as his voice was hoarse and deep. Vermilion bird, are you going to betray the underground forces? He wanted to use the dark spell to control the vermilion bird's mind again. But earlier when he was executing the soul-absorbing incantation, he was smashed on the face by Yiqing Luo's medicinal powder. He couldn't gather his spiritual energy at all. Bah! You bad guy! I'm a supreme holy beast. How could I possibly be in cahoots with the dark forces? You, a lowly human, want to use a secret technique to control this holy beast. How dare you question this sacred beast? Do you believe that this sacred beast will send you to the heavens in minutes? Qi Yen stared at the blood-red beast's eyes and spread his wings angrily. He wished he could give him a wing directly and let him die as far as he could. The King of Darkness's face turned ashen. You used the ancient dark secret technique to control Qi Yan's mind, and deliberately made Qi Yan sign a soul contract with me. You wanted Qi Yan to use the raging flames to pollute my profound jade heart, pollute my soul, so that I could be completely used by your dark forces. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled lightly. Then, she lifted her long and narrow eyes and said with a faint smile, "Am I right?" The King of Darkness fell silent. This was a tacit agreement. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed lightly. In order to control her soul, her profound jade heart, the dark forces could even give up one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. That was rather strenuous. But, not only did they give up the vermilion bird, they even pushed the vermilion bird into her hands. Chapter 1708. King of Darkness looked at the young lady who was smiling sweetly in front of him in shock. She was Yiqing Luo. She was really Yiqing Luo. But, why was she able to become so powerful in that instance? The power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade was also constantly increasing. King of Darkness, obediently return to the sacred region seal and accept the eternal seal. Yiqing Luo glanced coldly at the shocked King of Darkness. With a leap, she leapt onto Chi-Chi's back. With a wave of her hand, a killing aura suddenly exploded in the surroundings. Go! South Waves Continent, Valley Wind City's headquarters courtyard. The entire courtyard was filled with people as students from various academies surged in. But everything around him was deathly silent. Everyone's emotions had sunk to the bottom. No one opened their mouth to break the strange atmosphere. Especially the skyward first house, which was the quietest. Dean Xian stood at the entrance of the courtyard with his forehead full of sweat as he looked at the rows of elders dressed in white robes standing in front of him. This was the Blazing Flame Nest's special training. There were 1,500 over students from various academies, but there were only 1,200 over students who returned. But this number, to the various academies' students, was already a miracle. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, none of them would be able to return. All of them would die in the Blazing Flame Nest. This was the least death that Yiqing Luo had exchanged for with her own life. The students had returned safely, and to the various academies, large families and powerhouses, it was a joyous matter. Some were happy while others were worried. Dean Xian was feeling apprehensive at this moment. If it wasn't for his strong willpower, his legs would probably have turned into jelly. He roughly understood what had happened in the Blazing Flame Nest from the various academies' students. He was extremely shocked that Yiqing Luo was able to destroy the Dark Side's plan, which had been going on for close to 2 months. The Spirit Assimilation Array was destroyed. The Dark Forces were all massacred. Even Wolf Saint Law and Pharaoh, he were severely injured by Yiqing Luo. What kind of pervert was she? Luckily the Dark Forces had left a way out. Such a powerful pervert, if they could control her and make her into the Dark Forces' chess piece, it would definitely make up for the failure of this mission. Dean Xian kept reminding himself in this way. But however, he was still terrified. Would the Dark World push all the blame to him and make him the scapegoat if the mission failed? Just at this time, Long Yunzhan, Yan Xiaoyi and Xiao Jin walked into the courtyard, their bodies filled with exhaustion and worry. As soon as the crowd saw the 3 of them, they immediately went forward to welcome them. The president of the General Hospital asked eagerly, "How is it? Is there any news about Yiqing Luo?" The 3 of them were silent. Everyone's face darkened. Obviously, they didn't get any information. The Heavenly Dean also walked forward quickly. "Is there still no news? Weren't the members of the Dark Forces subdued by the disciples of the Imperial Palace? Also, aren't Zi Qianqian and Su Xiaoyan imprisoned in the dungeon? Can't we get some information from them?" The Heavenly Dean was worried that the people from the Dark Forces would sell him out, which was why he was so anxious. But in other people's eyes, they all thought that he was worried for Yiqing Luo. Chapter 1709. Although that was the case, but everyone knew that Yi Qing Luo's chances were slim. After all, she had ruined the Dark Forces' plan, killed so many people from the Dark Forces. Now she was controlled by the Dark Forces. How could the Dark Forces let her off? Don't worry too much, that lass is not someone to be trifled with. Zoemo slowly walked into the crowd. His slanted eyes were fixed on the worried face of the girl in the crowd. His long arms stretched out and brought the young lady into his arms. His broad palm covered the back of the young lady's head and pressed her head onto his chest. His action caused the crowd to look over in astonishment. Zoemo was one of the instructors that Ghost Marshal had brought along. He actually hugged a student? That student seemed to be a devil-class student? Little wildcat, that bitter face, don't you believe in your sister's ability? Zoemo didn't care about the surrounding students' gazes as he comforted the person in his arms in a gentle voice. Kitty Lee pursed her lips as all she could think about was Yi Qing Luo. Hence towards Zoemo's action, she didn't resist. Leaning on his chest, Kitty Lee's spirit eyes, which were like the vast starry sky, was filled with a layer of mist. Her ears were filled with his heartbeat. It made her feel a sense of security. Amen. I believe in my sister's ability. She opened her mouth and her voice was extremely soft and slow, revealing a suppressed sobbing tone. Zoemo tightened his arms as he gently kissed her hair. It's said that a scourge lives for 1,000 years. That scourge of hers, even the heavens don't dare to accept it. Kitty Lee's brows were still furrowed. Believing in Yi Qing Luo's ability was one thing, but not worrying was another thing. Devil classes students were all silent. Director sighed softly. We will take full responsibility for the Blazing Flame Nest's matter. No matter what, we will try our best to rescue our hero student Yi Qing Luo. Director took a look at the elder beside him. The elder immediately took a step forward. We have already spread the news of the Dark Forces conspiracy to the other continents. All the cultivators in the various continents will pay attention to the Dark Forces movement. When the other academies' directors and elders heard that, they all stood out to express their stance. Yes, the Dark Forces are acting so wantonly. What do they take our Nirvana realm for? This time, all of us from the 4 continents will unite and destroy the Dark Forces. This time, the Dark Forces were trying to absorb the souls of all the students. In other words, he had offended forces from all over the world. At that moment, the halls were filled with the cheers of the students from the various academies. The Heavenly Dean looked at everyone's menacing aura and cold sweat oozed out of his forehead. He had never expected that such a tight operation would fail. Moreover, the Dark Forces had become the common target of all the forces on the 4 continents. Once the Dark Forces lost their power. His position as the Dean, I'm afraid I won't be able to keep it. As for the students of the Devil class, they kept silent and the expressions on their faces were extremely solemn. Right at that moment, a voice suddenly sounded from the horizon. Following that, something fell from the sky like a rolling wave. Bang! A black obsidian beast landed in front of everyone. No one had time to react. A white figure flipped down from the top of the black owl beast. Chapter 1710. The boorish roar shocked everyone present. For a moment, the noisy dormitory once again became incomparably silent. Everyone stared blankly at the crazy old man who appeared out of nowhere. The white figure pounced onto the Heavenly Dean's body. He grabbed the Dean's collar with one hand and clenched his fist with the other, his face full of rage. How the F***ck did you become the Dean? I let you be the Dean. I let you be. A punch landed heavily on the Heavenly Dean's face. The Dean cried out in pain, struggling to free the crazy old man's hand. But the more he struggled, the strength of the crazy old man's grip became tighter. In the end, he simply grabbed the Heavenly Dean's neck and pressed him to the ground. There was no scruple of his dignity as the Dean. The Dean's face was livid. His face was stuck to the ground, and his mouth was full of sand. The deans of the surrounding academies were standing at the side and gesticulating. The dean couldn't bear it anymore, gritting his teeth. "Guiyu! Are you crazy? This is the school building. How dare you act so presumptuously?" He clasped the crazy old man's arm with his backhand. Guiyu spat. "I don't care where you are, you killed my Luo girl, I want you to be buried with her. Are you thinking of?" The dean was flustered and exasperated. "Want to kick me out of the school? Don't you King forget who got you the position of dean?" Guiyu snorted disdainfully. The dean trembled with anger. His strength was far from Guiyu's. There was no way he could break free from Guiyu's grip. "Enough. Guiyu, let him go." A calm voice came from behind Guiyu. This voice sounded extremely familiar. Guiyu's body stiffened, frowning as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw a young man in black, looking at him coldly. Guiyu blinked his eyes, looking past the young man in black, looking for something. "Stop looking, it's me." That familiar voice came from the young man in black. Guiyu was slightly startled. Suddenly, he jumped up from the ground and pounced on the young man. F***ck, F***ck, F***ck. You're too King shameless. He's just an old man, but he actually made himself so handsome. The black-clothed youth's face was gloomy as he glanced at him coldly. Old man Guiyu's agitated emotions gradually calmed down. The heavenly dean got up from the ground and wiped the sand off his face in embarrassment. Yiqing Luo's move in the blazing flame nest. As a result, he was highly respected and admired by the deans of the various academies. But now that old man Guiyu had messed around. In the next few years, he, the Heavenly Academy's dean, would be a joke in the mouths of other academies. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness and resentment. When he glared at Guiyu fiercely, he discovered that Guiyu had obediently shut his mouth under Guiyu's gaze. He was astonished. One had to know that old man Guiyu's temperament was unpredictable and he did things according to his whims. He wouldn't care about anyone or any scene. Do whatever you want. But, he was actually afraid of the ghost martial artist? Guiyu and Guiyu knew each other? What are you doing in the southern continent? Guiyu frowned, looking at Guiyu who was dressed in a messy and crazy outfit. He was somewhat displeased. Guiyu scratched his messy hair like withered grass. "Something happened to the Luo girl, I'm here to save her." "I don't need you," Guiyu said faintly. "Go back to your western continent." Chapter 17:11. Guiyu squinted his eyes and fixed his gaze on Guiyu for a long time. Without saying anything more, he turned around and walked out of the school dormitory. Guiyu immediately followed Guiyu's footsteps. Hey, I haven't asked you, what are you doing in South Continent? Wait a minute. Guiyu seemed to have thought of something as he quickened his footsteps. Your current identity seems to be a martial arts fanatic, giving special training to various academy students. Don't tell me you've lost my last Luo? Guiyu's footsteps halted but he didn't turn back. But his actions indicated everything. Guiyu cried out loudly as he pounced onto Guiyu. You're present and you actually allowed the dark forces to take my last Luo away. Do you know that on her? Before he could finish his words, Guiyu's mouth was sealed by Guiyu's hand. Their voices were getting further and further away. The school dormitory was in dead silence once again. The students from various academies looked at each other in dismay. Looking at Guiyu and Guiyu who were already far away, then looking at the ashen-faced and disheveled Principal Xian. In the end, they chose to appease everyone one by one and returned to their own courtyard to rest. In just a short moment the entire heaven room was left with only the students from the devil class, still standing at their original spots. As though they couldn't wait for Yiqing Luo's news. They didn't have the mood to go back to rest. After half a jaw's stick of silence, Long Yunzhan slowly walked towards the students from devil class. Yan Xiao and Xiao Jin followed closely behind. Upon entering the Sky Dormitory, Kitty Lee broke free from Zhou Mo's embrace and quickly ran to Long Yunzhan's side. "Brother Long, Kitty Lee knows you can find my sister, you. Bring Kitty Lee to find my sister, all right?" Her eyes were filled with tears. Her little hands clutched Long Yunzhan's sleeve tightly. She believed in Yi Qing Luo's ability. But she was still very worried about Yi Qing Luo. If she was by Yi Qing Luo's side, she would definitely be able to help her. Long Yunzhan lowered his eyes and looked at the tearful beauty in front of him. His azure blue eyes flickered slightly. He wasn't surprised that Kitty Lee had seen through his identity. Kitty Lee was the princess of the cat clan and had the sensitivity of a cat beast. She could naturally smell and sense that he wasn't a real human. He could indeed find Yi Qing Luo. However, Long Yunzhan narrowed his eyes and slowly brushed Kitty Lee's hand away. She will be back soon. At this time, the Devil class students had already entered the Sky Room 1. When Yan Xiaoyi heard Long Yunzhan's words, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She quickly rushed forward. "Class monitor Yui, do you know something?" Yan Xiaoyi had this feeling ever since returning from the flame lair. Thinking back to when they discovered Yi Qing Luo being controlled by Tao Wu in the blazing flame nest, Long Yunzhan's action of calling Devil classes students to leave Yi Qing Luo. Moreover, after Yi Qing Luo was taken away by the dark forces, even the Overlord didn't manage to catch her. He still calmly called the students back to their dorms. The more she thought about it, the stranger it was. It wasn't that she didn't know how much Long Yunzhan cared about Yi Qing Luo. There was no way Long Yunzhan would abandon Yi Qing Luo and lead the students back. When everyone heard Yan Xiaoyi's question, their footsteps instantly stopped. All of them looked at Long Yunzhan with anxious and worried eyes. Long Yunzhan looked calm. His azure blue eyes swept across the brothers in front of him. "I only know that Qing Luo is not controlled by the dark forces." Chapter 17:12. Not controlled by the dark forces? Devil classes students opened their eyes wide as they looked at Long Yunzhan. Boss Qing Luo intentionally pretended that she was being controlled? Long Yunzhan replied calmly. The hearts of the Devil classes students could finally be at ease. However, a new wave of worry surged into his heart. If those people from the dark forces found out that Boss Qing Luo was pretending, would they make a move on her? Boss Qing Luo is alone in the dark forces. If anything were to happen, what should we do? At this moment, we should stay by Boss Qing Luo's side. Yi Qing Luo pretended to be obsessed with lust and then took the initiative to be brought away by the dark forces. It must have been to attract the attention of the dark forces so that they would focus their attacks on her. The dark forces were so terrifying. Yi Qing Luo was alone. Was it really safe? The students of Devil class were deeply worried. Looking at the students discussing animatedly, Long Yunzhan's expression could no longer remain calm. Qiao Jin opened his mouth in time. The Overlord and the Imperial Palace's disciples have already rushed towards the dark forces, and Qing Luo will be brought back safely very soon. Everyone looked at Qiao Jin. "Everyone, go back to your rooms and wait for news. At the very least, wash away the smell of blood on your body." Qiao Jin pushed the students around and said with a face full of disgust. Devil classes students hesitated in their step. Yi Qing Luo's life or death was still unknown, so how would they have the mood to return to their rooms to bathe? Qing Luo will never do anything that she's not confident in. There's also the Overlord who's going to take action, so what are you worried about? Qiao Jin's tone was relaxed. After much persuasion, he finally managed to chase the students of Devil class back to their rooms. Qiao Jin wiped the sweat off his forehead as he turned his head towards Long Yunzhan. The Overlord will definitely be able to bring Qing Luo back, so even if you rush over, there's no use at all. After pausing for a moment, his gaze fell onto Tong Ziqing, who was walking a few steps away, then looking back worriedly. He sighed softly. "Cherish the people in front of you. Don't let yourself regret it." His words caused Long Yunzhan's expression to change slightly. With his perception, he could naturally sense Tong Zicheng's gaze on him. He thought of the scar on Tong Zicheng's back. He clenched his fist. When he raised his eyes again, his face had already regained its calm and indifference. Her azure eyes were as calm as a still lake. She looked at Xiao Jin quietly. "You too." With that, Long Yunzhan turned around and returned to his room. In the courtyard of Residence Sky, only Xiao Jin and Yan Xiao Yi were left. Long Yunzhan's words made Xiao Jin's heart tremble slightly. His gaze instinctively looked towards Yan Xiao Yi. Coincidentally, he met Yan Xiao Yi's gaze. A ripple that Xiao Jin couldn't understand faintly rippled in her beautiful eyes. In the depths of his eyes, there seemed to be great sorrow and endurance. And at the moment when their eyes met, Yan Xiao Yi hurriedly avoided eye contact and turned to head out of the courtyard. I will also return to my room first." Her footsteps were slightly flustered. He looked at her back as she left. An indescribable panic surged up in Xiao Jin's heart, thinking of the 3 words that Long Yunzhan said just now. His heart suddenly trembled violently. Almost subconsciously, he had already taken quick steps forward as he grabbed Yan Xiao Yi's wrist. "Xiao Yi, don't leave first." Yan Xiao Yi's petite body trembled as her body stiffened slightly as she stopped in her tracks. Chapter 17:13. His tone was calm and indifferent. There wasn't the slightest bit of intimacy from before. Looking at the indifference in Yan Xiao Yi's eyes, Xiao Jin felt a dull pain in his heart. His hand grasped Yan Xiao Yi's wrist tightly. He used so much force that Yan Xiao Yi couldn't help but frown in pain. Xiao Jin panicked and released her wrist. "I'm sorry." Yan Xiao Yi rubbed her reddened hands. When she heard his apology, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. She couldn't understand. How could his eyes be so blind? Why did she fall for this bad-tempered, and ugly man? Moreover, this man looked down on her. What she wanted was never an apology from him. "If there's nothing else, I'll return to my room first." Yan Xiao Yi pursed her red lips and did not have the mood to be entangled with Xiao Jin. "Xiao Yi, you don't treat me with such an attitude." The latter half of the sentence reached his mouth, but Xiao Jin couldn't say a single word. Looking at the impatience in Yan Xiao Yi's eyes, he took a deep breath and calmed his own tone. "Don't be too worried, Qing Luo will be fine." "I know." Yan Xiao Yi's brows knitted even tighter. He stopped her just to say this? She didn't want to hear any more comforting words. Xiao Jin was even more at a loss for what to do, and a trace of panic appeared on his ordinary face. Why did he stop Yan Xiao Yi? He didn't understand it himself. But, looking at Yan Xiao Yi's departing figure, suddenly, he didn't want Yan Xiao Yi to leave. You? Yan Xiao Yi stared at the expression on Xiao Jin's face, unable to understand what he was thinking in his heart. It is said that a woman's heart is unfathomable. In her opinion, this man's heart was also a needle in the ocean. Xiao Jin clenched his fists tightly and was unable to spit out a word for a long time. Looking at the conflicted and helpless look on his face, Yi Zichen saw that he was at a loss for what to do. She didn't know what was bothering him. He disappeared just like that. He appeared just like that. Then, he acted as if nothing had happened. When Yan Xiao Yi thought of this, she was infuriated. He could not be bothered to say anything more to Xiao Jin and directly turned to leave. He hadn't taken a few steps when Xiao Jin's low and deep voice that was filled with restrained and complicated emotions resounded from behind him. "I'm sorry, Xiao Yi." Another apology. Ever since he had appeared, he had been apologizing to her. Did he think that by apologizing, she would forgive him for his sudden disappearance? No way. Yan Xiao Yi snorted lightly. She stopped in her tracks and twisted her body, looking at Xiao Jin with a smile that wasn't a smile. "You lost. I'm sorry about what happened to Shi Shanglan." Xiao Jin spoke before she could and gave her a 90-degree bow. Yan Xiao Yi's words were stuck in her throat. The expression on his face gradually became cold. Is this what you want to apologize for? Xiao Jin raised his head, and his eyes were filled with sincerity. I know you're angry. I interfered with your relationship, and I didn't care whether you liked Shi Shanglan or not. I pushed you to his side. It's my fault, my fault. Yan Xiaoyi interrupted him. You keep apologizing to me because of Shi Shanglan? Could it be that I've done something wrong? Xiao Jin was startled and carefully probed. Yan Xiaoyi clenched her fists and the corner of her eyes twitched. Soon after, a brilliant smile appeared on her beautiful face. She looked at Xiao Jin smilingly and said word by word, "No, you did very well, although she was smiling. But this tone. Chapter 17:14. Xiao Jin understood Yan Xiaoyi. How could he not see the storm gathered under Yan Xiaoyi's smile? He was somewhat at a loss. He realized that ever since the incident with Shi Shanglan, he was unable to understand what Yan Xiaoyi was thinking. I really know I was wrong. Don't worry. I will definitely not interfere with your feelings in the future. You can like whoever you want. I will definitely not interfere at all." He spoke quickly. As he spoke, he sincerely raised 3 fingers and made an oath. Like whoever I want. Not interfere? These few words caused the expression on Yan Xiaoyi's face to gradually turn cold and congeal. Her beautiful eyes were emotionless as she stared at Xiao Jin. What kind of mood did he have to say those words? Yan Xiaoyi was furious. She suddenly reached out and grabbed Xiao Jin's collar. She laughed coldly. You can like whoever you want? Her smile was extremely cold. Xiao Jin was flustered and confused. He nodded in a daze. Yes. All right, then I'll tell you I like, before he could say the word you. Suddenly, a wave of hurried footsteps came from outside Tian Room 1. Then, a figure hurriedly rushed into the courtyard. Xiao-Yi, are you all right? After that person rushed into the courtyard, he stopped in his tracks when he saw the scene inside. A wounded expression appeared on his face that was as gentle as jade. Then, he turned around and quickly walked back. Sorry for disturbing you. Xiao Jin's gaze landed on that back figure. That figure was tall and wore a dark red long robe woven with gold. Seeing that robe, Xiao Jin's pupils contracted. He frantically pushed away the hand on his collar. Young Master Shi, you misunderstood. He pulled away from Yan Xiaoyi and quickly caught up. Young Master Shi, why are you here? Shi Shanglan was pulled back by Xiao Jin. Seeing Shi Shanglan's wounded expression but forcefully suppressing his pain, Xiao Jin pursed his lips and explained dryly. Xiao-Yi often plays with me. Just now, she wanted to beat me up. Don't misunderstand. Shi Shanglan stilled slightly. Seeing the mess on his collar, and thinking back to Yan Xiaoyi's aggressive manner just now, Yi Zichen felt his heart skip a beat. The expression on his face finally eased up a lot. On the other side, Yan Xiaoyi, who was standing at the same spot, lowered her head in silence, stood there in a daze. Her loose hair covered her face. It also covered the expression on her face. Yan Xiaoyi stared blankly at her hand that had been pushed away. Her fingertips could still feel the warmth of his body. He was explaining to Shi Shanglan. He had clearly distanced himself from their relationship. She was so afraid that people would misunderstand their relationship. Was he so unwilling to have anything to do with her? He looked at his hands. Yan Xiaoyi suddenly felt, just like his abandoned self, he would never be able to see her who loved him so much. In the darkness sanctuary, the air seemed to be filled with a foul wind and bloody rain. The King of Darkness's body was drenched in blood, and there were wounds all over his body as he laid on the ground. The bone sword that was known as the divine weapon of darkness fell beside the King of Darkness. The sword glow was already covered in a layer of darkness. The aura of the mysterious Yin energy was also gradually dissipating. In front of the King of Darkness, that young lady dressed in a blood-red robe was still standing proudly. The eye-catching red glow on her body was flickering in a demonic manner. Is the time limit almost up? Yiqing Luo placed her feather fan on her lips as she smiled gently. Chapter 17:15. This young lady was simply a pervert. Simply a devil. King of Darkness was filled with fear towards Yiqing Luo. Even more than that was endless hatred. Yiqing Luo indeed did what she said. She said she would return it back 100 times, then she would return it back 100 times. Previously, he had struck her vital parts, but it wasn't fatal, torturing her bit by bit. Now, she was doing the same to him. And it was returned 100 times. His entire body was filled with scars from Yiqing Luo's torture. This young lady was extremely vicious. She could be so vicious to herself, not to mention to others. The King of Darkness panted heavily, and his eyes were filled with unwillingness and anger. You think, being chosen by the divine phoenix profound heart jade, you can soar to the skies in this lifetime? Heh! King of Darkness sneered, his eyes were filled with ridicule. This is only the beginning of your calamity. Yiqing Luo's blood-red eyes flashed slightly. She lowered her eyes, her curly long lashes, under the alluring red light, were plated with a red glow. The wound on her chest, which was almost pierced by King of Darkness, blossomed with an extremely demonic glow. That glow filled her entire body. It was the power of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Her pink lips curled up slightly, her eyes were filled with ridicule. I've been seen through, I thought. Based on King of Darkness's eyesight, he would only think that I suddenly showed my prowess. The divine phoenix profound heart jade saved you, so what? This power can suppress me, so naturally it will transmit the aura of the divine phoenix profound heart jade to the upper realm. Once the people from the upper realm sense the aura of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. King of Darkness laughed sinisterly. The people who want to obtain the divine phoenix profound heart jade, the ambitious people, are not only this king, and not only the dark forces. In the dozens of moves just now, Yi Shiwen's expression changed. King of Darkness also knew why Yiqing Luo's power suddenly increased explosively. It was because he was too eager to force her. He forced Yiqing Luo to take the risk, to be ruthless, to dig out the profound heart jade in an attempt to self-explode. That was why the divine phoenix profound heart jade had to protect its master's life to prevent it from exploding. Hence she automatically released a small portion of her energy to block his attack, and in the shortest time possible, it raised Yiqing Luo's physical quality and the intensity of her strength. To be more precise, in other words, Yiqing Luo had undergone a mutation under the divine phoenix profound heart jade's transformation. The energy which completely oppressed the King of Darkness wasn't Yiqing Luo's energy. Instead, it was the power that the divine phoenix profound heart jade released on its own. However, it was only a small portion of its power. It was enough to deal with the King of Darkness. This small portion of power was also very likely. It will be transmitted to the upper realm. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly, her pink lips were dyed with a bewitching and eye-catching dimple. So what? Just as you said, only I, who is afflicted with the profound heart jade, can display its greatest effect. Then, I am the owner of the divine phoenix profound heart jade. The reason why this world is divided into 4 realms and several planes of existence proves that this is a balanced world with rules that belong to the heavenly Tao. There are rules, there is balance. Even if the people from the upper realm knew that the divine phoenix profound heart jade had appeared in the lower realm, they wouldn't be able to rush over immediately to make a move on her. And by the time the upper realm sensed it and rushed over, she could borrow the Azure Dew bracelet to conceal the divine phoenix profound heart jade's aura. This point, old man Tsang could totally do it. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her body, the chill in her eyes wandered. From this angle, she could clearly see. Chapter 17:16. Drops of fresh blood dripped onto the ground, onto King of Darkness's face. King of Darkness, you who have been in deep slumber for thousands of years, continue to sleep. Her pink lips rose slightly, her smile was vicious and icy cold. She waved her glower flame fan, a hurricane swept up King of Darkness's body, fiercely smashing it onto the altar. King of Darkness was shocked as he cried out miserably. His body was stuck onto the wall, which was filled with talismans. A bone-chilling cold instantly invaded King of Darkness. No. I don't want to sleep anymore. I want to wake up, I want to wake up. King of Darkness screamed hysterically as he continued to struggle. After Yi Qing Luo threw him towards the sacred region seal, she swept up the dark bone sword and held it in her hand. She played with this black long sword as she looked at the frantically struggling King of Darkness with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Unfortunately, your struggle will not go as you wish. Following King of Darkness's unresigned howl, his body completely disappeared into that seal which was filled with talismans. The surroundings fell into silence. King of Darkness's voice completely disappeared. The moment the King of Darkness disappeared, everyone was stunned. Yi Qing Luo's body swayed slightly. A feeling of exhaustion from exhaustion instantly surged up her mind. She forcefully held on to her consciousness as she asked Old Man Tsang, "In this way, King of Darkness's consciousness is also considered to be sealed? He is a physical body which is formed from mental energy. You have already completely destroyed King of Darkness's mental energy, causing heavy damage to King of Darkness's original body. This time, King of Darkness wants to awaken once again, to make a comeback." Old Man Tsang paused, at least. He needs to sleep for 1,000 years, after his consciousness awakens, according to the method he used for the past 100 years, to collect the soul, then the seal can be broken. Sleep for 1,000 years? Which meant to say, for close to 1,000 years, there was no need to worry about King of Darkness appearing again. And no need to worry about King of Darkness stirring up trouble. That's good. That's good. Her mission had finally been completed. The moment she felt relieved. Yi Qing Luo's body softened as she fell backwards. Her blood-red eyes, as the red glow gradually faded, as it returned to its original color. The red glow enveloping her body slowly gathered as it moved towards the wound on her chest. Ugly woman! Roar! Vermilion Bird and Chi-Chi flew over. Vermilion Bird's sharp beak bit on a piece of Yi Qing Luo's clothes. Chi-Chi used her own body to cushion Yi Qing Luo. The moment the two sacred beasts came into contact with Yi Qing Luo, suddenly, the red glow which was gathering towards Yi Qing Luo's chest directly extended to the two sacred beasts. The bewitching red light was dazzling. In an instant, the massive bodies of the two sacred beasts were enveloped in the red glow. The two sacred beasts didn't even have the time to express their surprise. A red light flashed before his eyes. The two sacred beasts lost consciousness. The two sacred beasts that were enveloped by the red light suddenly shrunk, turned into two red dots, and rushed into the girl's body. Without the support of the holy beast, the girl's body softly fell backward. The blood-stained uniform was like a blood-stained butterfly spreading its wings, just as the girl's body fell to the ground. His tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. Her eyes were as black as glass, and her eyes were shining with brilliance. The glower flame fan in her fingertips suddenly flew out from her hand. It automatically opened up in midair, as streams of red airflow flew out. That airflow intertwined as it supported Yi Qing Luo's falling body in midair. Chapter 17:17. Her legs were still weak and powerless. She took a deep breath and raised her slender white hand with difficulty as she pressed her brows. Just now, when her consciousness was completely pulled away, suddenly she heard the two sacred beasts' cries. After she forcibly woke up, Qi Yen and Chi-Chi were no longer around. She didn't have the extra energy to check the situation in the pet space. "Lass, your injuries are too serious. If you don't treat it quickly, you won't be able to hold on." Old Man Tsang used the Azure Dew Bracelet's power to help Yi Qing Luo do a full scan. The battle between Yi Qing Luo and the King of Darkness. No matter if it was external or internal injuries, she had suffered heavy injuries. Especially after she forcefully dug out the profound heart jade and released its power. This body had completely exceeded the load that she could bear. Lass, listen to me now. Withdraw your consciousness into the azure dew bracelet and start healing yourself. After your injuries have stabilized, then think of a way to leave the dark sacred region. Old Man Tsang said in a deep voice, the outside world will not know what happened in the dark sacred region. Before the other people from the dark forces step into this place, you are safe. Yiqing Luo tried her best to maintain her consciousness. After hearing Old Man Tsang's words, she responded softly. Indeed, if she left the dark sacred region in this state, it was equivalent to sending a lamb into the tiger's mouth. With the help of the glower flame fan, Yiqing Luo walked to a rather clean corner. She crossed her legs and sat on the ground. Slowly closing her eyes, Yiqing Luo used the last of her energy to withdraw her consciousness and entered the azure dew bracelet. The glower flame fan's airflow wrapped around her completely, forming a protective cover. Time went by minute. A joss stick's time had passed. Yiqing Luo maintained her original position. 1 hour had passed. The glower flame fan's energy was also being depleted, and the protective cover was gradually fading. Just at this moment, outside the opened palace door, a figure silently walked in. A beautiful woman in a jade-colored dress frowned when she saw the blood-stained ground of the holy region and the mess it was in. The air was filled with the stench of blood, making her nauseous. The lady covered her nose, as her eyes were filled with disgust. Her gaze swept across the sacred region. In the end, it landed on the girl in the corner, surrounded by countless whirlpools of air. A trace of malevolence and distortion appeared on that gentle and beautiful face. Yiqing Luo? She didn't die. How could she not die in a place like the Dark Sanctuary? Wasn't the King of Darkness consciousness and strength still around? Even the King of Darkness couldn't kill Yiqing Luo? The expression on the woman's face became even more ferocious. Hatred and jealousy slowly appeared on his face. Her slender fingers curled up one by one, and intense hatred shot out from the bottom of her eyes. The lady lifted her feet and slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Fresh blood dyed her green-embroidered shoes red. The blood that was supposed to make a woman feel nauseous now stained her skirt. At this moment, the woman was completely unfazed. All the attention was concentrated on Yiqing Luo. Finally, the lady stopped in front of Yiqing Luo. That attacking red airflow suddenly moved, wrapping Yiqing Luo's entire person up tightly. The lady squinted her sinister beautiful eyes, as her lips curled into a cold smile. So anxious to protect your master, in other words. The current Yiqing Luo has no ability to protect herself? The melodious voice was extremely pleasant to listen to. Chapter 1718. The red airflow was like a fire dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Suddenly, it attacked towards the lady's direction. The lady's beautiful eyes turned cold as her beautiful face was filled with malevolence and viciousness. She waved her sleeves and a thick, profound energy, which was like a torrential jade water, split the airflow apart. The glower flame fan had used up all its energy to protect its owner without the supply of profound chi from its owner. It was collided with the lady's ferocious attack. That flowing airflow collided with that jade-colored profound light. A boom sound was heard. The glower flame fan flipped in midair and landed beside Yiqing Luo. The airflow faintly appeared. Finally, the light dispersed and turned into an ordinary glower flame fan. The lady gave a light snort as she stepped on the glower flame fan. Your brother's tamed weapon, and you're actually on this slut's side. When she said this, the lady's expression was filled with jealousy. Following that, the lady's beautiful eyes fell onto the young lady who was recuperating. At this moment, the smile on her face became extremely ruthless and cold. Yiqing Luo, you snatched my brother D away. I will absolutely not let you have it easy. As long as you're dead, Brother D will forever be mine. The lady laughed maniacally. She raised her palm and condensed a jade-colored profound light which shot up to the sky. A palm strike landed on Yi Qing Luo's body. Yi Qing Luo, who was still recuperating, was shaken by this sudden attack until her consciousness trembled. Her body flew out horizontally as she crashed onto the wall. She spat out a mouthful of blood as she speedily withdrew her consciousness from the azure dew bracelet. Her consciousness left her body and suffered an attack while she was recuperating. To a cultivator, this was a fatal injury. Luckily, Yi Qing Luo's consciousness left her body and was in the azure dew bracelet. With the protection of the azure dew bracelet, her consciousness wasn't injured. Yi Qing Luo clutched her chest as she looked up at the person who attacked her. A jade-green figure came into view. Her long, flowing hair was tied with a jade-colored ribbon. Her brows creased. "Feng Ling, why are you here?" Feng Ling actually appeared in the dark sacred region? Windchime had already colluded with the King of Darkness? Naturally it was Brother D who told me. Feng Ling smiled gently. The malevolence on her face had already faded when Yi Qing Luo woke up. "Ah Xian?" Yi Qing Luo frowned as her eyes were filled with suspicion. "You used the Netherworld Phoenix ring to inform Brother D of your whereabouts." Feng Ling seemed to have expected that she would not believe her. She smiled faintly and explained, "This is such a dangerous place. As the palace master of the Imperial Palace, Brother D will definitely not come personally, so let me take a look." She giggled, and her eyes were filled with pride. "I thought you were really important to Brother D, but in the end you're nothing more than this." Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She said nothing. However, the fingers that were gripping his collar gradually tightened. This detail naturally did not escape Feng Ling's eyes. The smile on her face became more and more complacent. "Brother D obviously knows that I hate you so much, but still asked me to come over to save you. Tell me, Brother D really wants me to save you, or to kill you?" She smiled. Her posture was elegant and extremely gentle, especially that jade-colored ribbon in her hair, which floated slightly. It highlighted Feng Ling's beauty. Yi Qing Luo's breathing tightened. After the battle with the King of Darkness, her body was already overloaded. While she was recuperating, she suffered Feng Ling's attack, which caused her to be injured on top of her previous injuries. Chapter 17-19. Yi Qing Luo didn't speak for a long time. In Feng Ling's eyes, it meant that her body and mind were heavily injured and she was grieving. Hence, Wind Chimes smiled smugly like a blooming chrysanthemum. "Do you feel sad, upset, and in despair?" Her steps were light as she walked towards Yi Qing Luo. "Do you really think Brother D loves you that much? He's only after this special body of yours." The woman smiled gently and calmly, but the ruthlessness in her eyes could not be concealed. "The disciples of the Imperial Palace should be rushing over to save you." Feng Ling smiled again. "But I don't want you to live. What should I do?" Yi Qing Luo remained silent. Those eyes that were as calm as still water did not have the slightest bit of emotion. If one person was showing off, mocking, stabbing a knife into the other person's heart, that person didn't speak for a long time. At first, one could think that she was grieving so much that she couldn't speak. However, if it was someone who was trying to show off, even if they chattered on and on, the other party wouldn't even have an expression on their face. It felt like he had punched a pile of cotton. Feng Ling's eyes were filled with anger. She stretched out her hand and grabbed Yi Qing Luo's collar, lifting her up from the ground. "Slut! Do you think that I'm lying? I'll kill you now and see if Brother D will come and save you." Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. Windlink's actions were extremely crude. The wounds on her body were throbbing in pain. Feng Ling lowered her head and her gaze fell on Yi Qing Luo's chest, the wound that could fit a hand. A trace of treacherous ruthlessness flashed across her beautiful eyes. "Big Brother D is also very interested in your profound heart jade. Before I kill you, I'll give it to Big Brother D. Big Brother D will definitely be very happy." Feng Ling smiled charmingly. His hand also stretched out towards Yi Qing Luo's chest. Just as Feng Ling's hand was about to touch Yi Qing Luo's wound, her pink lips moved, and a slightly hoarse voice suddenly rang out. "He won't come to save me?" Wind Ling's hands stopped moving. A hint of joy and pride flashed across his eyes. "Yes, he won't come to save you." After getting a response, Windling retracted her hand. She didn't intend to kill Yi Qing Luo like this. She wanted Yi Qing Luo to taste the agony, to taste the despair of not being able to get what she wanted. He's the palace master of the Imperial Palace, the most honorable existence in the entire Nirvana realm. Why would he risk his life to save an insignificant woman like you? Feng Ling smiled. However, Brother D treats you quite well. At least he arranged for the Emperor Palace's disciples to save you. He also asked me to come and see if you're dead. Yi Qing Luo's pupils contracted slightly. The expression on his face was somewhat gloomy. Looking at the changes in Yi Qing Luo's expression, Feng Ling continued to smile contentedly. Yi Qing Luo, don't think too highly of yourself. Brother D doesn't need a useless woman by his side. You're just a chess piece that can be discarded anytime. I don't believe it. Yi Qing Luo's breathing was trembling and her voice was also trembling. Her charming eyes blinked weakly. Feng Ling was so pleased with herself that she didn't notice the sneer in Yi Qing Luo's eyes. What has it got to do with me whether you believe it or not? Feng Ling threw her heavily onto the ground. Yi Qing Luo, you're so smart, so you should have sensed it. If it wasn't for Brother D telling me you're here, how would I be able to find traces of the dark sacred region? You know everything, you just don't dare to believe it. Chapter 1720. But I think the one who is more pitiful is you. The clear voice was sweet and pleasant to the ears. The young girl, who had a pained expression on her face, suddenly raised her lips and smiled brightly. Feng Ling's smile froze on her face. A look of astonishment appeared on her beautiful face. What did you say?" Feng Ling asked incredulously. Shouldn't Yi Qing Luo be devastated and in despair? Why could she still smile so sweetly and dazzlingly? Yi Qing Luo's long eyelashes fluttered slightly as her lips bloomed into a smile, elegant and noble. "I say, Feng Ling, you are the most pitiful person." Yi Qing Luo chuckled as she repeated what she said earlier. She leaned against the wall and sat on the ground. She raised her head and smiled at Feng Ling. Feng Ling's expression turned gloomy as her petite body swayed. Just as she was about to open her mouth, her belly full of resentment, upon meeting Yi Qing Luo's smiling eyes, was choked in her throat. Obviously, Yi Qing Luo was looking up at her. Obviously, Yi Qing Luo was in a sorry state. But Yi Qing Luo's arrogance easily suppressed everything of hers. "You are smart to use half-truths to provoke the relationship between Xian and me." Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly as if it was covered with a layer of frost. That smile was extremely chilly. You don't believe me?" Feng Ling clutched her green sleeves tightly. Yi Qing Luo smiled. "Between you and Xian, there is no suspense. I choose to believe Xian." Feng Ling's move was indeed well calculated. If Feng Ling had told her right from the start that Dmo Xian didn't love her and was using her, or even asking Feng Ling to kill her or something like that, even if she thought with her toes, she would know that these words were 100% fake. But Feng Ling's words were half-truths. She created that Dmo Xian indeed cared about her, just not as much as she imagined. She created that Dmo Xian was a fickle man. If Feng Ling's target was another person, perhaps she would really be fooled. Unfortunately, Feng Ling didn't understand Yi Qing Luo's character. Once Yi Qing Luo confirmed that Dmo Xian was the man she depended on for life. Unless Dmo Xian dumped her in front of her. Otherwise, no matter when, no matter what environment, she would wholeheartedly trust Dmo Xian. Feng Ling obviously didn't expect that her words were totally unable to move Yi Qing Luo's heartstrings. Yi Qing Luo really trusted Dmo Xian that much? Then why did Yi Qing Luo pretend to remain silent right from the start, pretending to have suffered a blow? Suddenly, Feng Ling's ruthless beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. You are stalling for time. Feng Ling finally understood. Yi Qing Luo didn't have any battle power at all. If she appeared, Yi Qing Luo would definitely die. Yi Qing Luo had been dragging the time, waiting for Dmo Xian to rush over to save her. Feng Ling's fingers turned into sharp claws, the expression on her face suddenly became ferocious and terrifying. I will not do as you wish. I'll kill you right now. Let's see if you die first or if Brother D rushes to save you first. Azure profound light gathered in his palm. She fiercely slapped Yi Qing Luo's head. However, Yi Qing Luo didn't reveal a terrified expression like what she had imagined. On the contrary, Yi Qing Luo laughed. Her smile was extremely devilish and enchanting. Her charming eyes were flowing with a dazzling luster, sparkling brightly. The light blinded Feng Ling's eyes. Chapter 1721. Feng Ling's heart suddenly trembled as she revealed an astonished look. The next moment, a huge gust of air rushed in from the opened palace door. Boom, boom, boom. Several loud bangs were heard as the dark sacred region was in turmoil. The blood-stained ground was densely covered with numerous fine cracks. A terrifying and strange aura filled the entire sacred region's sky. A purple figure followed that terrifying aura as he speedily entered the sacred region. His purple robe billowed as his sleeves fluttered. As the man walked over, numerous streams of airflow rose from his feet. Powerful profound qi which seemed as though it could swallow everything in the world started to spread around him. His speed was extremely fast. So fast that the naked eye was unable to capture it. Ah! A sharp miserable shriek was heard. Before Feng Ling could react, her body had already flown horizontally as she fell heavily onto the ground. Her entire being was submerged in that blood pool. Instantly drowned in the blood water. Lil Luo Dmo Xian's hoarse voice was filled with pain. He flew up and pulled Yi Qing Luo into his arms. The young lady in his arms was on the verge of death. Her breathing was so light and so slow. A patch of red stung his eyes. Dmo Xian couldn't tell if this was her own blood or the blood that had splattered out from the blood pool. Other than that face, Yi Qing Luo's entire body looked as though it had been soaked in blood. Fresh blood dripped down drop by drop. Her body hung limply on his body, as though there was no longer any signs of life. Dmo Xian's hand which was hugging her started to tremble. His breathing froze as his body started to tremble. Her body was very cold, icy to the bone. Her face was very pale, without any color. Lil Luo Lil Luo The man's hoarse voice was filled with pain and frustration. And there was a suppressed, sobbing tone. Right. Sobbing tone. The man who had always been high up, who had always been calm and composed, who had always been strong and calm. His tone was actually filled with sobbing tone. Yi Qing Luo's heart ached fiercely. She raised her hand with difficulty as her icy cold fingers, which were stained with blood, gently touched his cheek. Her action was very gentle, but it still affected her wound. Perhaps it was because the person who made her feel at ease had arrived. She didn't bother to hide her frown and let out a pitiful cry. It hurts. This cry of pain caused Dmo Xian's peach blossom eyes to be tainted with a layer of mist. It caused Windling, who was trying her best to climb out of the blood pool, to fall back into the pool with a splash. *tch. She was indeed a slut. You only know how to act pitiful and seduce Brother D. Windling was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Windling could not be blamed for thinking this way. Just like the battle between Yi Qing Luo and King of Darkness. How badly had he been abused? Even his heart was almost dug out. Yi Qing Luo didn't even make a sound. Now that she saw Dmo Xian, she cried out in pain with all her might. Ah Xian! Yi Qing Luo's voice became softer and softer, her pink lips opened and closed, but what came out was only air. Diamo Xian's eyes were red and misty like peach blossom eyes, as he carefully looked at the big and small wounds on Yiqing Luo's body. He wanted to explode with rage. He wanted to berate Yiqing Luo for being so willful. She wanted to reprimand Yiqing Luo for acting on her own, causing her to suffer such a serious injury. But seeing her pale face, that pitiful cry of pain, all his anger turned into heartache. His voice was hoarse as he choked. "Don't talk any more, Lil Luo, I'll bring you away from here. Ghost Doctor is already waiting for us." Looking at that peerlessly beautiful face, Yi Zichen was stunned. Chapter 1722. Yiqing Luo laughed softly. "I knew you would come." Her voice got softer and softer. Finally, she slowly shut her eyes and fell into a coma. Diamo Xian's heart was throbbing in pain. Lil Luo. The feeling of helplessness in his heart felt as though an icy cold hand was strangling his neck. That hand had even reached into his heart. Using that bone-piercing hand, it viciously crushed his heart. He tightened his arms. The person in his arms was as light as a feather. So light that he didn't dare to use too much strength. As though if he used too much strength, it would shatter. He trembled as he hugged her. Step by step, he walked towards the entrance of the sacred region. As he walked, he used his profound energy to treat Yiqing Luo's injuries. Brother D. Feng Ling, who had climbed out of the blood pool, immediately chased after him. But she was not able to get close in time. A burst of profound qi charged straight at her. Feng Ling narrowly avoided that burst of profound qi. But her shoulder was still cut by the remnant aura. Feng Ling was in pain as she held her shoulder as her face turned pale. She knew that Diamo Xian did not kill her. This was only a warning to her. But Diamo Xian's action had expressed his attitude. He had completely hated her. This was a warning to her not to get close to him in future. Feng Ling's heart was in pain. Seeing Diamo Xian leaving without hesitation, he didn't even turn back to look at her. Feng Ling clutched her wet sleeves tightly as she pursed her lips and cried out, "Brother D, I have a way to save her, only I can save her." Her words successfully made Diamo Xian stop in his track. Feng Ling's eyes lit up as she stumbled over. A pair of tearful beautiful eyes looked at Diamo Xian in a daze. "Brother D, I really didn't do it on purpose. Believe me, I really didn't want to kill her. I was just blinded by greed, Feng Ling was crying as she leaned towards Diamo Xian. Her body had yet to get close. Diamo Xian's cold eyes glanced at her. The chilly intent in his eyes stopped Feng Ling's thoughts of getting closer. "What way?" Diamo Xian's voice was like frost. Feng Ling's delicate body trembled, and her eyes became misty. "Brother D, do you really have the heart to do this to me? I was really possessed just now. I've loved you for so many years, Not waiting for her to finish, Diamo Xian directly turned around and walked out of the Sacred Region Palace. He did not show any respect to wind chimes. Windling staggered a few steps back. Her heart ached so much that it could not be any more painful. He left so decisively. There was no hesitation at all. Did he really hate her that much? So hateful that he felt annoyed just by looking at her? A layer of madness and ruthlessness gradually appeared in Feng Ling's eyes. Her slender fingers were clenched into fists. She looked at the man who had already walked out of the palace. She took a deep breath. "Big Brother D, you should also know that woman's profound heart jade is different from our profound heart jade. With her strength, she is simply unable to control that profound heart jade." Windling stood where she was and did not chase after her. Her voice had also regained its usual gentleness and elegance. She didn't have to chase after him. Since Big Brother D loved that woman so much, then let Big Brother D take the initiative to return to her side for that woman. As long as Big Brother D was by her side. Even if he didn't love her, she didn't care. The infatuation in Windling's eyes continued to spread. Chapter 1723. He did not look back. Feng Ling knew that Brother D was waiting for her to continue. Feng Ling didn't keep him in suspense anymore and continued, Her profound heart jade was sealed with a trace of profound energy by the dark forces using a dark secret history, causing her to be devoured by the profound energy once she uses the power of the profound heart jade. Feng Ling paused and slowly walked towards Diamo Xian. Brother Di has always been by her side, so you should know about this matter. Diamo Xian did not answer, but he hugged Yi Qing Luo tightly as he turned around and his icy cold eyes looked at her. Although his eyes were cold, she was still reflected in his eyes. Windling smiled. As long as he could see her, she was satisfied. If I'm not wrong, the wound on her chest should be the result of the King of Darkness forcefully digging out her profound heart jade and taking it for himself. Moreover, her profound heart jade has clearly been dug out. Feng Ling raised her finger and pointed at Yi Qing Luo's chest. Drops of blood were still dripping from his blood-stained fingers. Diamo Xian lowered his head as his vision pierced through the fist-sized wound on Yi Qing Luo's chest. A beating heart could be vaguely seen between the bones and flesh. Above his heart was a profound jade heart that was flickering with a brilliant purple light. Following the beating of his heart, it slightly swayed. Indeed, the profound heart jade had traces of movement. Did the King of Darkness dig out her profound heart jade? Even if you had people treat her external injuries and treat her internal injuries, but her profound jade heart was still damaged in the end. Her heart was also damaged. Feng Ling saw that Diamo Xian did not speak for a long time, and she understood that Diamo Xian had tacitly agreed to her word. Otherwise, with Diamo Xian's character, he would just turn around and leave. Thinking like this, Feng Ling became even more confident in her heart. I have a way to suppress the power of her profound jade heart, and can repair the abnormal movements of her profound jade heart. Condition. Diamo Xian finally opened his mouth, and it was just two simple words. Windling covered the spot where her heart was and felt a sharp pain coming from her heart. She let out a low laugh. The more he laughed, the more his eyes became dry and the more it hurt. In the end, she and Diamo Xian had still walked to this step. In the past, no matter how cold he was towards her, he at least had some warmth towards her. But now, in his eyes, he was no different from a stranger. Cold words and a gaze devoid of warmth. All of this was because of that woman, and now, she had to save that woman in order to gain Brother Di's attention. How indignant! Feng Ling's resentful gaze made Diamo Xian's eyes sink. His ink-like peach blossom eyes were stained with coldness. What conditions do you want? Meeting Diamo Xian's gaze, Feng Ling's heart skipped a beat. The coldness in his eyes chilled her heart as well. Windling took a deep breath, maintaining her usual gentleness and elegance on her face. I wanted to tell you when we were in the flame lair. At that time, I really just wanted to tell you the method I know, but Diamo Xian made Tang Beiyuan send her back to the Imperial Palace like a criminal. Who was she? The granddaughter of the Imperial Palace's granny. The future mistress of the Imperial Palace. How could she be controlled by others? How could she allow Tang Beiyuan to send her back? Feng Ling raised her head and looked at Diamo Xian faintly. Since you said I want conditions, then I have conditions. Diamo Xian didn't want to waste a single word with her. Feng Ling's lips curled upwards as her smile became even more gentle. The heart-calming bead that Granny gave me can maintain and stabilize Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart and also stabilize her advancement speed, so that she won't be devoured by the profound jade heart. Chapter 1724. Diamo Xian's brows creased slightly. You want this lord to grant you the position of mistress? Feng Ling clutched her robes tightly as she forcefully endured Diamo Xian's oppressive might and nodded. Yes, I want you to marry me and be with me, then. With her, never to meet again. Diamo Xian sneered as he gave a derisive laugh. On what basis do you think this lord will agree to your unreasonable request? On the basis that you care about her. Feng Ling wasn't willing to admit this matter, but she could only use this matter as the capital to threaten Diamo Xian. Diamo Xian's voice paused, as he had no words to refute. You care about Yi Qing Luo, so this request to you isn't unreasonable. Feng Ling eased her tone. Brother Di, I understand you too well. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes as he looked at the person in his arms. At that moment, Feng Ling could obviously feel that Dmo Xian's entire aura had turned gentle. The gaze he used to look at Yi Qing Luo was so lingering and so gentle. This scene pulled at Feng Ling's heart. Her petite body trembled slightly as she clenched her fists tightly, forcing herself not to care about it. Dmo Xian's icy voice rang beside her ears. Since you know this lord cares about Lil Luer, then this lord will not agree to this request. He tightened his arms as he turned around and took a step forward. His voice continued to be heard. Feng Ling, Granny in the Flame Nest laid a hand on Lil Luer. This lord has given the both of you a way out, which is considered as this lord repaying Granny's nurturing grace. This time, you laid a hand on Lil Luer, this lord will not let it go easily. That menacing tone made Feng Ling feel weak and powerless. She fell on the bloody ground. He really intended to disregard their many years of friendship. Really? Going to lay a hand on the both of them? The man she had fallen in love with. He was really cold-hearted. So cold that he could lay a hand on them who had been together for more than 10 years, just for a woman. Just as Dmo Xian had left for less than half an incense's time. Dark Sacred Region's palace entrance was suddenly shrouded in a thick black fog. This fog, as compared to the profound Yin Qi, was even more terrifying and terrifying. Feng Ling, who was sitting on the ground in a daze, revealed a panicky and terrified expression when she sensed the black fog. Shivering, she quickly got up from the ground and ran to the door. As soon as he arrived at the palace gate, he knelt down with a thud. My lord, why are you here?" Her trembling voice could not hide the fear in Wind Chime's heart. Wind Chimes did not dare to raise her head. It was as if a huge hole had been torn open in the thick black smoke, and two figures gradually appeared. Thick black smoke shrouded the figure. His entire body was shrouded in a long black robe, revealing only a pair of eerie eyes. Poochie, a light laugh came from the mouth of one of the black-robed men. Judging from the voice, it was a woman. There was a hint of tenderness in her laughter. "Lowly person, I asked you to do something for me. Why did you make yourself look like this?" Feng Ling's delicate body stiffened, and her voice trembled as she replied, What does it look like?" With a thud, a bronze mirror rolled to Feng Ling's side. "Didn't His Excellency ask you to use your beauty to seduce your sweetheart to give the tranquility pearl away?" The woman smiled tenderly, and her eerie eyes were filled with ridicule. "Just based on your looks, and you still want to give the tranquility pearl away?" Feng Ling hurriedly grabbed the bronze mirror. When she saw the person in the bronze mirror, Feng Ling screamed and threw the bronze mirror in her hands away. Chapter 1725. Feng Ling hugged her head and desperately let out a shrill scream. She was actually covered in blood. On her head, face, clothes. It was all sticky blood. Her face was red, her entire body was red. There wasn't a single part of her that was unscathed. She looked like a corpse bathed in blood. It was disgusting no matter how one looked at it. It was horrifying no matter how one looked at it. Feng Ling recalled. When Dmo Xian rushed over to the dark sacred region, she was sent flying by Dmo Xian's profound qi and fell into the blood pool. After that, her attention was placed on Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo because she was jealous of Yi Qing Luo. She had totally forgotten about the matter of her falling into the blood pool. Earlier she had been using this look to negotiate with Dmo Xian? Earlier she used this look to enter Dmo Xian's vision? She had been maintaining her smile, maintaining her noble elegance, maintaining her gentle and virtuous demeanor. But her face was covered in blood. Who could see her smile clearly? Her noble elegance? Her gentle demeanor? Ah! Feng Ling hugged her head as she screamed crazily. The gentle image which she had been portraying in front of Dmo Xian was totally destroyed today. "What are you screaming for? What's there to scream for? The lady's delicate voice revealed some impatience. I think, even if you look like this, d'emotion, that fellow has no reaction at all. Feng Ling's scream stopped. That's right. D'emotion had no reaction at all. He looked at her covered in blood and in such a sorry state. Even his gaze didn't change, even though there was her reflection in his eyes. But she could never walk into his heart. She was so ugly that d'emotion wouldn't give her any reaction at all. Lowly person, you can't even complete the task given to you. How dare you not listen when I speak to you? The lady laughed sinisterly. Following her sinister laughter, Feng Ling's body, which was covered in blood, was sent flying. Feng Ling crashed onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her body twitched in pain as she regained her senses from the pain she had suffered from d'emotion. A useless piece of trash. Just kill him. The woman narrowed her eerie eyes impatiently. Just as Xiao Chen was about to make a move, the black-clad man beside him, who had been silent all this time, said in a low voice, "He will come looking for you again. You have to give him the heart-setting pearl." It was obvious who he was referring to. This voice was a strange voice that had obviously used profound energy to change its tone. It wasn't hard to tell that it was a man's voice. The moment the man opened his mouth, Feng Ling's trembling body started to tremble even more in fear. She trembled and kowtowed hard on the ground. Yes, I will definitely send the tranquility bead out. I will not let him have any doubts. If someone was present at this moment, they would definitely feel that this scene was extremely comical and strange. In the Nirvana realm, the imperial palace could be considered as the supreme ruler. The existence of the imperial palace surpassed the existence of the 4 legendary sects of the 4 continents. Feng Ling was the granddaughter of the imperial palace's granny, and she was famous in Jianghu. He had a strong background and was extremely talented. Windling was never afraid of anyone. She could practically do whatever she wanted in the Nirvana realm. But in front of these 2 mysterious black-robed men, she didn't even dare to let out a fart. Main Academy Dormitory, Sky Dormitory 1. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. A few deafening collision sounds were heard, followed by a wave of tremors that shook the mountains. Chapter 1726. The students saw a huge white 9-tailed fox descending from the sky. The 9-tailed fox landed on the ground and its 4 huge claws stirred up numerous airflow. Sky Level 1's ground was embedded with 4 deep pits. 9 white tails smashed heavily on the ground. It's the sacred beast 9-tailed fox. The Overlord is back. Overlord? Is Madame Qing Luo back too? Madame Qing Luo. Madame Qing Luo. Numerous Devil Classes students revealed a joyous expression the minute they saw the 9-tailed fox. All of them rushed forward, wanting to know their own boss's situation at the first instance. But before the students could even get close, however, it was blocked by an invisible airflow. A purple figure leapt down from the 9-tailed fox's back. In his arms was a young lady wrapped in a purple robe. Wasn't that their boss? Their boss was carried back by the Overlord? Their boss was injured? And it wasn't a light injury? This thought made Devil Classes students' hearts suddenly twitch fiercely, as though it was pierced by numerous silver needles. All the students turned silent. None of them dared to go up to ask. Each and every one of them, carefully and quietly followed behind d'emotion. They knew that the Overlord cared more about Madame Qing Luo than they did. The Overlord's mood was even heavier than theirs. They followed d'emotion all the way to Yi Qing Luo's room. Just as d'emotion wanted to use his profound qi to split open that tightly shut door, Long Yunzhan speedily went up and pushed the door open. At the same time, they saw a figure dressed in a gold ingot robe dragging another person dressed in a white robe as they took a step forward and barged into the room. Devil Classes students were stunned as they prepared to take action to protect their own boss. But after they saw the 2 of them clearly, they heaved a sigh of relief. God Thief and Sir Ghost Doctor. Ghost Doctor was here. Their boss was saved. Diemo Xian's footsteps didn't stop, nor was there any signs of surprise. Apparently, he was the one who found these two people in advance. Diemo Xian placed Yiqing Luo on the bed with a grave expression. Ghost Doctor, I have already done a simple treatment for her, but it can only stop her bleeding and prevent the wound from getting infected. Ghost Doctor's face was gloomy as he didn't say a word. He only took quick steps to the bedside. When Yiqing Luo's purple robe was lifted, the Devil class students all cried out in shock. There were a few female students whose eyes turned red as they called out Yiqing Luo's name softly. Their Madame Qing Luo was covered in blood. His green and white uniform was dyed red by the blood. What exactly did she go through? Was that why he was injured like this? What's the matter? Ghost Doctor roughly scanned through Yiqing Luo's injuries, as his face revealed a sliver of anger. Holy Pirate sucked in a cold breath. How could you be injured like this? Even they had never suffered such a serious injury. She alone sealed the Dark Forces King of Darkness back in the Dark Sanctuary. Diemo Xian's voice was extremely cold. His voice was tense, as if he was enduring a storm. This little girl is too reckless. When Holy Pirate heard this, he almost jumped up. Suddenly, the sound of chaotic footsteps came from the door of the room. The General Courtyard's president walked into the room in quick steps. Overlord, earlier you said, the Dark Forces King of Darkness had been sealed? His words had just ended when an extremely chilly gaze suddenly fell onto him.